is quite impressive.
That ball is gone.
This is Turner Sports.
No, the humanity.
Oh, boy.
Come on, I blew that one, didn't I?
So much
so
for
close,
the script.
so close.
I'm not even going to go with a word. I'm going to go with a phrase. The pack is back.
There you
no
go.
No more two-driver tandem. It's packs 3 and 4 wide, 5 rows deep. That's what we're going to have tonight.
And let's face it, this is without a doubt one of the great nights on the NASCAR calendar because it always goes right down to the wire.
They're side by side, right to the line. Big crash. Here they come. Checkered flag.
Boilermaker Ryan Newman. Roger Penske. Wins the Daytona 500.
Checkered flag in the air to Jamie McMurray.
Yes! Little Jamie, baby! It's over. Unbelievable! Happy birthday, Trevor Bayne!
I'm sure tears of joy for David Reagan, who's celebrating his first ever win.
Side by side with Kenton. He runs out of time. Will Kenton wins the Daytona 500.
If you are going to win at Daytona, Kyle, you've got to be there at the end. But as a driver, how hard is it to be patient when you're running speeds upwards of 200 miles per hour?
I think the package you have now, it's a little easier to be patient. Used to, you had to get yourself up front. You had to put yourself in position. Now you've got a little time to figure out what you've got, to make some adjustments. We saw in the nationwide race, we see in these restrictor plate races, guys go to the back, they come to the front. So I think you can be a little bit more patient now.
It is, in fact, NASCAR's biggest crapshoot when you come to a place like Daytona, Larry.
Well, and I know from the pit box, you know, you put that race car on the line just like these 43 crew chiefs they've done, and you hope that you've dotted every I and crossed every T, but you know that you are controlling about 10% of the destiny. It's amazing. We're going to run 160 laps in 400 miles, and probably we're not going to know who's going to win this thing till they come off turn 4 to come back to that checkered flag.
Wally Dallenbach going to be a part of our race coverage tonight right here on TNT, and right now he joins us from the booth. So, Wally, what is the mindset of a driver as you get set for 400 miles at a place like Daytona?
Okay, well, first of all, KP, did we watch the same nationwide race? I a lot of patience here last
That was
night.
tons of patience, baby.
You know, I think as a driver, when you're sitting there, really the biggest thing I think when I thought about it in one of these races is I hope that none of those other 42 guys make a mistake, because you're out there, you're trying to settle in for the race, you're trying to let things settle out. In the first part of the race, everybody's 3 wide, 10 roads deep, and you're just just getting past that first 25 laps for things to settle down a little bit. I think that's the first step of this race. I think you take this race in different stages. Obviously, like these guys were talking about, you got to be there at the end, and if you're in it, I mean, if you're in this race with 1 lap to go, no matter where you are in the field, you really have a shot to win this race, and that's what makes Daytona and Talladega such a cool place. But I think as a driver, to win at Daytona, it doesn't matter what you win in. This is a special place. Daytona is so cool. You pull in victory lane down there. It's a special place. So it means a lot to all these guys.
And I know we are all looking forward to bringing you the action later tonight. Wally, we'll see you a little bit later on, okay?
Okay.
And now we check out the Sprint Cup Series driver standings after 17 races complete in 2012. I want you to look at the top of the page and the bottom of the page. Matt, your championship leader, and at the bottom, Brad Keselowski, 3 victories now in 2012.
Now, for 9 races, he has the challenge. He and that race team stay in the top 10 where you can capitalize on those bonus points for those wins in the chase.
And Kyle, Wally talked about how wild it's going to get on track tonight. The wild card standings pretty interesting as well.
The wild card standings get wilder every week. I think when you look at it, you look at Carl, you look at Kyle, you look at Paul Menard, but you look at Casey and Ryan Newman and Joey Logano. They're with Kyle, along with Kyle Busch. Each have a win. We look at Jeff Gordon. My gosh, how long can that bad luck continue? He may turn it around here, but he's going to have to win quick.
But 3 consecutive top 10 finishes, and I think the key with Jeff Gordon, he's only 10 points behind those 3 drivers that are tied for that second wild card spot. He said it this week, I'm 1 win and 10 points away from being right there in wild card situation.
And there are a lot of drivers very nervous tonight because they realize while they can help themselves by going out and getting a great finish, they can also put themselves behind the 8 ball in the standings if they get in the big one.
Yes, and it's just like Wally said. I'm worried about those other 42 drivers making a mistake. When you're in that situation, when you're in Jeff Gordon's situation, Casey Kane, those guys, that wild card, you're worried about the other guy just as much as you're worried about yourself.
I think Wally what he was trying to say, I just hope I'm not around one of those other 42 drivers when they pull the pin out of the grenade.
Yes, exactly.
The championship standing, certainly a big storyline at this stage of the season. Many more stories going to play out right behind us on the pit lane tonight. Let's get to the guys who will cover the action, and we start things off with Matt Yoakum.
Well, Adam, I'll be covering the very first section as the cars come flying off turn 4, trying to power down. You'll see them lock up the brakes, trying to get down to pit road speed. A host of contenders in my area tonight, including 2-time Daytona winner Kevin Harvick. Now, Harvick told me that he probably played it too conservative, too late back in the Daytona 500 and finished 7th. Not really sure what to expect here tonight. Now, off-track news, an update on the Harvick Baby Watch. Now, this morning, Delana Harvick flew back to Kernersville, North Carolina for precautionary measures. Remember, she is within 2 weeks of her due date. She told me about an hour ago on the phone, I spoke with her, that she is resting, doing fine. Feet will be propped up tonight. I'm sure she'll be blasting up on Twitter about tonight's action right here on TNT. But everything is fine. But in case she should go into labor tonight, they have Kenny Wallace standing by here in the 29 pit. Roush Shaheen?
Matt, I'm going to be covering the section of pit lane tonight that goes from Michael Waltrip to my right down to Ryan Newman to my left. But right here in the middle is where you would find Juan Pablo Montoya. Back here in February during the running of the Daytona 500, Juan was a part of one of the wildest, most spectacular moments of the 2012 season. He lost control of his number 42 during a caution period, slammed into the back of the jet dryer, and it burst into a major explosion. Juan and the driver of the jet dryer, both okay. Unfortunately, the racetrack here at Daytona, not so much. Since then, a 37 by 20 foot wide section of the racetrack has been removed and repaved. I'm talking to the drivers. They all like it. They think it's ready to go racing tonight. He's going to start 14th. And Chris, he told me the only thing he's hoping to see tonight as far as fireworks is after the checkered flag falls.
Hey, Ralph, I've got from Eric Almirola all the way down to Casey Kane. And last night, this guy, Kurt Busch, took an unsponsored overheating car to victory lane in the nationwide race. Kurt looks at this track a lot like Sonoma, a track that levels the playing field, a track that a small team could win. Kurt Busch has got some of the best stats when it comes to restrictor plate racing, yet he has yet to win a plate race. Although that could all change tonight. He's in a car that took Brad Keselowski to victory lane at Talladega in 2009. All the way down at pit out, Marty Snyder.
and I'll be covering some guys like Tony Stewart, Carl Edwards, and Matt Kenseth, all of whom we'll talk to on Countdown to Green coming up momentarily. I'll also be talking about this guy, Greg Biffle, who's arguably had one of the most consistent cars at the restrictor plate races this year, including a third here in February. Biffle told me, though, he's been reliving those final few laps when he pushed his teammate Matt Kenseth to the win. He told me, quote, I gave one away here in February. I'm not going to give away the Coke Zero 400 tonight. I'll do different things at the end of the race this evening. It's going to be fun, Adam, to watch Biffle and his teammates out here on the front end of pit road trying to win the race and what they do at the end of the race.
We look forward to it, Marty. And some breaking news here at the track. About 30 minutes ago in the media center, Steve O'Donnell, the senior vice president of NASCAR Racing Operations, made this announcement about the 22 team.
Driver A.J. Allmendinger has been temporarily suspended from NASCAR competition based upon notification of a positive A test NASCAR received from its medical review officer. As stated in Section 19-11B, 6 and 7 of the NASCAR substance abuse policy. Pursuant to the rule book, Allmendinger has the opportunity to request within 72 hours that his B sample can be tested. NASCAR will follow its policies and procedures that are set forth in the rule book in dealing with the matter. And as Kerry stated, out of respect for the process, we're not going to take any questions at this time. Thanks.
Thank you all very, very much.
So the team working in the garage, changing the seat and the foot pedals in preparation to put a different driver behind the wheel tonight. Sam Hornish Jr. drives for the team in the Nationwide Series. They're hoping that he can get here, but he has yet to board a plane. So the team going through all of their options, and as news continues to come from the 22 bunch, we will keep you posted right here on TNT. Straight ahead on Countdown to Green, we got some good stuff going on. The man who has won 3 championships, including getting it done 1 year ago, Tony Stewart, going to be with us. He's got quite a history at Daytona as well. And NASCAR Generations tonight, well, it's all about Daytona and the big-time speeds we've seen here. It's going to be fun. Military for 100 years. Show your support for our troops at Goodyear.com. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Good to have you with us on Countdown to Green from Daytona. Did you know that Daytona International Speedway has an infield that covers more than 180 acres, and the course itself can be configured at least 4 different ways for racing? And how do I know that? Twitter.com/#NASCAR. It's been over a month now since NASCAR partnered with Twitter to form #NASCAR. And everyone I talk to says it's the destination for the most compelling NASCAR content on Twitter. What they're doing is making a lot of fun and simple for fans to get the information they need and the answers all in one place. Signing up for the #NASCAR experience is easy and it doesn't cost you a dime. Point your browser to twitter.com/#NASCAR and you're in. And from there you can see what your favorite drivers are talking about and get up-to-date news, pictures, and video, and much, much more. This week we got a little poll question for you on Twitter. Tonight's final lap, would you rather be the race leader or not? We'd love to know what you think. #white flag leader or #white flag not. Send us your votes. And why do we ask? Let's go back to the last plate race, Talladega. Brad Keselowski leading late, and everybody thought he was a sitting duck, Larry.
But he had a friend, and that friend's name was Kyle Busch in the 18, and then they lost contact right there, and Brad just pulled away. So obviously he proved, at least at Talladega, you want to be leading on that white flag lap.
What about you, Kyle? You want to be out front and you want to be following?
No, I want to be out front, but I want to be far enough out front that nobody can make a move and nobody can mess with.
Just like Brad Keselowski
Yeah, I mean,
was.
you want to be like Tony wins races down here. You want to be like 100 yards out front. That's the way you want to be.
You mentioned Tony. That's
Yeah.
Tony Stewart, who's getting ready to join us. Let's and the 9th position in the Sprint Cup Series standings. Always good to have Tony with us on the rig. He's getting mic'd up and ready to go. Smoke, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having us again.
So I look at your stats for Daytona. You've won here 17 times when you talk about all the races you've ran here, whether it's on the speedway or the road course, and that's second only to Dale Earnhart. That's got to be a nice thing, huh?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool stat to have. I don't know that anybody's ever going to win more races than he has here, but it's been pretty fun. The only thing is I would trade about 10 of those for one of the Sunday races in February. So every time we'd win a Saturday race, I'm like, oh, not again. We're going to lose tomorrow now. So I want to trade it in for a 500. But this is an awesome weekend. Obviously, Coca-Cola and Kyle and I are in the Coca-Cola Racing family and the Coke Zero 400. So really excited about it. It's where the famous fence climb started, which was one of the worst ideas I ever had in my life. But it's been the home of some pretty cool moments for us here.
I want to go back 24 hours. You qualified second, then a few issues in the inspection line, so you start 42nd tonight. One, what was wrong with the car? And two, at a place like Daytona, does it matter where you start anyway?
Well, it really doesn't matter, but I was really, really proud of everybody on the Office Depot Mobile One team, and SHR did a great job. We were sitting second and third with, Ryan and I only being separated by 0.008 of a second. So I was really proud of our organization, and on what it was just a mistake on our part and on the team's part. We're supposed to take all the hoses loose that go to Nakaducks on the windows, and you're supposed to put caps on them. And apparently, in the thrash of getting ready, one of the clamps wasn't tightened enough, and it blew the cap off. So I was proud of NASCAR for staying with the rule and what it's supposed to be. It really wasn't anything that was going to help us, but they stayed consistent, and that's the main thing. So I'm behind NASCAR 100% on it. It was a mistake on our part. We shouldn't have let it happen. So we'll go to the back, and we'll fight our way up there today.
Tony, you and I spoke about this before. I stood in the media center at Chicagoland Speedway about 4 years ago, and you made the announcement you were going to be leaving Joe Gibbs Racing after 2 championships and wins, joined forces with Gene Haas, formed Stewart-Haas Racing. I know your expectations were high. If they hadn't have been, you wouldn't have done this. But did you actually see 16 wins? Ryan Newman has only missed the chase 1 year. You've made it all 3, but more than anything, to celebrate that championship at Stewart-Haas Racing last year.
I mean, obviously that was the goal, like you mentioned, and I felt like that there were the tools in place and the potential was there with the organization, but none of us would have dreamed that in year 3 that's what the end result was going to be. And just a lot of great people, and it starts with Gene Haas and everybody at Haas Automation. They give us the tools to do what we need to do. We've got a great partnership with Hendrick Motorsports, and Rick Hendrick himself has really been the guiding force with me to help me along the way. And we got Brett Frood and Eddie Jarvis and Joe Custer and everybody, and now Greg Zipadelli, a part of the organization this year as our competition director, and just a lot of really good people. And they had a great staff at SHR when I started there. So it was just a matter of changing some key people around and getting somebody in there to lead it to help it get going. But I'm one minor piece of that major puzzle there.
When you started running the Cup cars and you came to Daytona, it was all about speed in February, all about handling in July. And now we've got, different pressure valves. We can't bump. We get away from each other. It's changed so much. How much different is the racing this time than where we were here last year?
Quite a bit, actually. I mean, it's, last year everybody was worrying about how quickly they could get paired up with somebody, how far out they had to be to get clean air, and how many laps they could run before they were going to have to switch off, and if they were going to have to switch off. Now we have to watch the gauges a lot closer. The racing's a lot better. I like it a lot better without the 2-car pushing deal. We saw what a wreck fest it was last night because you got 2 cars pushing all the time. And it doesn't mean it won't happen tonight, that you won't have carnage, but at least we have a little bit of room to maneuver, and you're not relying on somebody else that's dictating exactly everything that's going on with you. So it's a lot better scenario for us right now.
Tony, we appreciate you being here tonight, and we thank you for bringing all of us a bottle of Coke Zero, because a couple of weeks ago, Marcos Ambrose sent up Vegemite. This is much better than what he sent up.
You need to drink a lot of Coke Zero to wash that down.
A lot better.
But you brought us gifts, and I've watched you lately. You've kind of mellowed out, and we like to have fun. Now, We saw your 2 wins. We saw 8 top 10s, but also 6 finishes outside the top 20.
Oh, man.
We've actually
we got you a present. He got it. He got it for you.
We thought you might like to have that.
I never thought I would be so excited to see one of these again in my life. So I gladly accept. Maybe I can get NASCAR to let me put it back on the car this week. So
a carburetor
guys,
for Christmas in July.
To have the issues you've had with not fuel injection, but some of the components, you've actually had an unbelievable season so far.
You realize how valuable mechanical parts are versus electronic parts that you just don't have control over. So, but our Hendrick engines are awesome, and there's no better group I would rather have when things go wrong than our Hendrick guys. They've been, after last week, they've addressed everything and they come up with the right solutions. So I'll keep this as a backup just in case, though.
Do you mind if I get it back? It has to go back on my car.
No,
you're welcome to come get it.
Right after lap 160, you're more than welcome to have it back.
Right. Oh, boy.
Hey, good to have you with us. Good luck tonight. Tony going to be entertaining them on track this evening. Entertaining Right Now Train. Here's their new hit single, 50 Ways to Say Goodbye. The green flag at Daytona, Marcos Ambrose. You want an upset pick for tonight? Go with him, starting 10th. You know, Fords have won the last 3 races here. Or Mr. Momentum, Brad Keselowski, 3 wins this year, including last week at Kentucky. Stay with us. You're watching Countdown to Green on TNT. On TNT going prime time tonight. It's all about Daytona. You know, they call Daytona Beach the birthplace of speed, and the Daytona International Speedway the world center of racing. That pretty much means there has been a ton of NASCAR history made right here. This week our panel recalls their favorite Daytona memories, including record-breaking speeds and a touching father-son victory.
I think we can all agree there's no place like Daytona, and everyone sitting here has got an amazing piece of history at the World Center of Racing. 2 Daytona 500 wins, Bill. What stands out to you about that place and the history there?
I still say the most impressive thing that I've ever done that impressed me was running 210 at Daytona in that era. I was sitting there the day Cale tried to run over 200 and ran a second lap, come off turn 4 and got sideways and upside down and the whole deal.
Kellen, absolutely a phenomenal run out there. What happened?
Well, just got airborne. The wind got it, just took it off the racetrack.
Back then, we could take the spoilers down to nothing. You know, you could plane them out, do whatever you wanted to do, and you were just hanging on. I mean, you were literally hanging on. And I didn't think when I left pit road that day I was coming back.
When you would go to qualify, you weren't sure you were going to come back.
That's right.
During that period of time, because you'd look in the mirror and there was no spoiler. That was an amazing thing that day when you busted that.
Like I said, that's the most impressive thing that I've ever done in my career.
There's not enough room to get that thing turned when you get to turn 1 at that speed. Yeah. These guys, y'all run on the bottom or run on the top and run 3 and 4 wide. You went in here and you ended up there. You know what I mean? And you just hoped and prayed that it was going to stick somewhere.
The cars just lift. Watch the back end of number 3. Just out a little.
At that speed and the air that's around each car as they run in traffic, it does literally pick the wheel off the ground sometimes.
So many of the races at Daytona and Talladega was won by maybe not who had the most power, but who would be more aggressive with how far you'd lay that spoiler back.
Right.
I think when Bobby won there in '88 in that Buick, I mean, he had that thing laid down to about 10 or 12 degrees in race trim.
You catch a late caution, and guys come in and wipe off the grill. Knock
Beat
that
the
spoiler
spoiler.
down. Beat that spoiler down. Send him
Give
back
it 4
out.
tires.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And you're out there, your tongue's hanging out because you've already been out there for 450 miles, just hanging on and praying to God every lap that you didn't hit anything. And then they're like, okay, now it's time to race. Go.
Yeah, go. So what we've been doing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
What stood out to you about race day when you won the 500, Jimmy?
You know, in that particular era of racing, you know, running around, and it's kind of that way now again, but protecting the yellow line was everything. And I went through that entire race protecting the yellow line, not playing with the middle lane or the outside lane, and almost in a sense not trying to win the race, but almost run second. And things kind of opened up in front of me. It's such a weird mind game to win a plate race in today's era of racing, because you can't do it by yourself. You know, the best car doesn't win. It's who's willing to work with each other the most. And that's what led to my win, and to stand there and try to pick up that trophy. It's a pretty big trophy in Victory Lane and celebrate. There's nothing like it.
I'll tell you what, I still think the most classic line I've ever heard was Tony last year. It said, this is a high-speed chess game, and I ain't even smart enough to play checkers.
That explains Daytona, right? What about 93 when Dale won the 500?
That one probably tops them all, even anything that I did on the racetrack. It was the first time that anyone knew of that a dad was in the booth broadcasting and his son win a major event. All right, come on. I know he's got it to the floorboard. He can't do any more. Come on, take her to the inside. Don't let him get on the inside of you coming around this turn. Of course, the producer of CBS at that time, he sort of turned me loose on the last lap. He had told Ken Squire and the late Neil Bonnet, who was working in the booth with me, that said, we're going to let Ned call the last lap. You guys back off. Well, he didn't tell me that. See, I didn't know it. And then he came on my headset and said, okay, said, call your son home, be a daddy. You know who I'm pulling for. It's Dale Jarrett. Bring her to the inside, Dale. Don't let him get down there. He's going to make it. Dale Jarrett's going to win the Daytona 500. All right. Oh, look at Martha. Oh, can you believe it? Way to go. Hey. Man.
Take it away, Ned.
Super job there, Dale. I tell you, I'm really proud of you. You did just exactly what you had to do, like I told you, right?
That's right, exactly like you told me all along, Dad. Thanks for everything. I appreciate it. This is a great day.
If you have been to a race here at Daytona, you have made a memory. Kyle, what's the top of your list?
Hey, you know, the top of my list is not even a race. My grandfather won the first race when they paved this place, when they came here. My father won so many. I raced here. But I think coming here with Adam and seeing Daytona for the first time through a 19-year-old's eyes and watching him come here and watching him practice and watching him go out and experience everything again for the first time that every one of us had experienced. That's my favorite memory of coming to Daytona ever.
A feeling you can't replace,
yes.
I'm sure. Larry, what about you?
Well, it would have to be being a part of winning the 2 Daytona 500s. And, you know, as a crew chief, sitting on that pit box, we didn't have these big, tall pit boxes we have today. And you could only see what was right in the tri-oval. And this place is so unpredictable. In 98, right there, until I saw Dale come in the tri-oval, knowing that he was going to win the battle back to that caution flag and the white flag, and then going back to 1992 with Davey Allison, knowing that Morgan Shepherd was dogging him, until I saw him enter the tri-oval, I knew it wasn't over until you absolutely see him come into sight,
yes.
And that they're going to take that checkered flag first.
Earnhardt winning the 500, one of the great scenes in NASCAR history.
Welcome back to Countdown to Green, NASCAR on TNT. That's where I'll be spending the evening here during this 400-mile race, Saturday night, under the lights. Now, let's come inside and do what we do each and every week, and let's open up Larry Mack's toolbox and take a look at this 2.5-mile super speedway. Now, first of all, remember, it's a restrictor plate race, and these drivers will be running wide open all the way around this racetrack. Now, let's take a look at turn 1 and 2. 31 degrees of banking. This track is plenty wide enough for these drivers to go 3 and 4 wide, but when they flatten out of that banking right here on the exit of 2, that's where we sometimes have the big one. Now let's go down and look at the other end of the racetracks, turns 3 and 4. Same amount of banking, 31 degrees, 3 and 4 wide open through there. Same thing, flattens out right here, and we always see drivers get in trouble there late exit of turn 4. Now probably one of the trickiest part of this racetrack. On the front stretch, we call it the tri-oval, 18 degrees of banking. Now remember, out there racing over 190 miles per hour, probably going to have some green flag pit stops. Right in here, they're going to have to get down to 55 miles per hour, but 400 miles, 160 laps, and we all know they want to get back here first, and that's where it can really get exciting. 2012, one driver has completed every single lap, and Chris Neville, nobody loves Daytona better than this driver.
Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr. currently second in the points. He's won on restrictor plate 7 times. Dale, the last time you won this race, you won it from 13th. You're starting 25th tonight. What do you have to do starting that far back?
Well, we just have to, have some good luck, make some good moves, make all the right moves, really.
just about anybody in the race can win tonight, and with the way the draft works and how even the cars are. So we just have to be smart, and hopefully we're in that top 2 or 3 coming around on that last lap, coming off of forward, and we have a shot at it.
Well, Dale Jr. still riding a wave of a great season. The only driver with 13 top 10s. Larry?
Chris, I'm here at our TNT Torque presented by Toyota with my driver, Kyle Petty. And driver, I'm going to hammer on you about a lot of things tonight, but I got a feeling I'm going to probably ask you to look at your gauges a lot.
And that's going to be my job tonight, is protect that water temperature, to protect it, protect the pressure, protect the oil temperature. We saw in the nationwide race, that one car of Kurt Busch, all those gauges turned absolute red in the last 8 or 10 laps. 8 or 10 laps, you're going to have to turn me loose, man, because I'm going to have to go then.
Well, the good news, I made it simple. You just have to look for red. And green.
Thank you.
Numbers.
Thank you.
Now, we go back to the Daytona 500, Kyle, and it's such a fine line between making your move too early, but you don't want to wait too late. There's a fine line there.
And before, when we had this tandem stuff, you were just stuck when you were in second. But we've seen it at Talladega. We've seen it at a lot of these other places. There is that fine line. We saw guys make moves on the backstretch and lose 8 or 10 positions. We saw guys wait too late coming out of turn 4 and not gain any position, and the third place guy wins. He makes the better move. So it's got to be timed just right, and there's only a few guys that we've seen pull it off, whether here or at Talladega.
And I want you to make it as wide as possible, and that yellow line is your best friend. Speaking of friend, you've got some teammates, I'm sure. Everybody has teammates.
Everybody has teammates.
But let me make sure you paid attention. Who is your partner? Who is your friend?
I can have some friends and I can have some partners early in the race. At the end, nobody is my friend. I'm a jerk. I'm going for Kyle Petty. I'm going to win this thing, and I don't care who I make mad. Sorry.
And don't forget, that yellow line can be your friend
be my
as
friend.
well. All right, now we need to take a break here from Countdown to Green. Take a look right here. There's the man, the fastest man in NASCAR, over 210 miles per hour back in 1987. Countdown to Green, the clock is cooking down. You're watching NASCAR TNT.
Edwards has had a rough first half of the 2012 season. So we thought it would be good to develop some confidence for driver 99. The best way to do that, have him go race Kyle Petty. Not in a car, on a paddleboard. Lake Lloyd right here at Daytona. Let's see how it went.
What are you going to do out here today? I'm not sure. I think we're going to get on these boards and we're going to try to paddle. Have you ever done this?
I did it one time, and
Come on, don't lie.
It was not pretty. I really only did it once.
One time.
What about you?
One time. I've never done it.
This is the paddle, you're the motor.
I'm the motor.
You put out the horsepower, you stick the paddle in like that.
Is there any trick to turning? Do I want to do
Yeah,
anything?
just, I mean, easiest thing for you to do today is just going to be for you to angle your paddle and pull away from the board.
We're going to have our paddle pros, Justin and EJ, start off. We're going to do one full lap, and then we're going to tag off for you two to bring it home for the final lap.
Oh, my God. Stand up. Hell, I can't even get the damn thing to turn.
Come on, guys, stand up, stand up, stand up. Where'd Kyle go? Kyle's having a little trouble. I want to make fun of him, but I think we're both going to look pretty stupid here in a minute. Do me proud. Whoa, they are hustling.
I'm going, Carl. You know how you restarted at Richmond?
Oh, come on. That's a low blow. Kyle Petty, greatest sportsman in NASCAR.
That's me, baby.
Oh, high, wide, and handsome. Can't turn, Kyle. I don't have enough stagger. I don't need to work out today. Hey. Good win. Woo! He's a broken man.
My turn 3 has been a little bit like some of your season this year, dude. I am so sorry for you.
I think this is the first win of the year right here.
Well, Carl, you won on the lake earlier this weekend. You got to do a backflip into Lake Lloyd. What do you got to do to get a win on the high banks tonight?
I hate to say this, but there wasn't much competition out there on that lake, so there's a lot out here on the racetrack tonight. We've got the Subway colors. They had a great race last night, and hopefully we can get a win for them here. We need to break through here. We need to get a win, and this place it can be great or it can be terrible. I just hope it's great for us tonight.
All right, pal, thanks.
Hey, thank you.
Time now for today's NASCAR Nationwide Series recap, brought to you by Nationwide Insurance. Last night here on the high banks of Daytona, things got wild, as they always do. Final lap, Kurt Busch driving the one car for James Finch. Going to get his second win of the year. And it's good he was out front because they were wrecking behind him. That's the 5th win of his career in nationwide competition. Keep up with all your favorite drivers on NASCAR Nationwide Series.com. And now we take a look at last night's results. Kurt Busch at the top, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Michael Annett, Austin Dillon, Joey Logano completing the top 5. And now we update the situation for A.J. Allmendinger. It was announced earlier tonight he's been suspended by NASCAR for violating the sport's substance abuse policy. Here's a statement from Team Penske. NASCAR notified Penske Racing this afternoon that A.J. Allmendinger was administered a drug test earlier this week, and those results tested positive. NASCAR has a strict drug testing program that Penske Racing fully supports. Penske Racing will work with NASCAR through this process and its next steps. Sam Hornish Jr. on his way here, scheduled to land at 7:25. He might drive the car, but right now the man listed, Nationwide Series regular Kenny Wallace. We will keep you posted as we close in on the green flag here at Daytona.
People might want to be following this guy tonight. I know he's got a lot of speed in the car, and I know qualifying in a restrictor plate race is a lot about the engine and the horsepower, but it also changes your perspective, doesn't it? It kind of makes you look forward to these plate races when you have a fast car like this, doesn't it, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, our speedway stuff this year has been spectacular, and that's really a testament to everybody at Roush Fenway Racing that builds these fast forwards, and Doug Yates and all the guys in the engine shop. So really fired up to get the race going tonight. We've had 2 really good plate races so far, and I think sitting on the pole today in impound race and basically in race trim really is a testament to this race team and how hard they're working.
We do expect a lot of pack racing tonight, but how hard do you search for your teammate at the end of the race when it comes down to the last few laps?
Well, I'm going to search for him in the beginning here, and hopefully Greg and I can get together. We worked so well the first 2 plate races, and we can get out front, hopefully lead some laps, keep our cars cool, and hopefully stay in front of any potential trouble.
For the first time in his career, Matt Kenseth will start on the pole at a restrictor plate race, Adam.
All right, Marty, time now to make our picks. It's Daytona. Wally, good luck.
I think, am I still leading the points?
You got to be.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to give the rest of these guys a break. I'll take the guy that's starting shotgun on the field tonight. I'm going to go with Tony Stewart.
Oh, that's
I'm really stretching it, but I think he's got a pretty good record here.
Is where smoke goes off tonight. Let's hear now from Larry and Kyle. Gentlemen, who you going with?
Mr. 4-time will become 7-time at Daytona. Big Daddy Jeff Gordon going to victory lane here tonight.
Good pick. And Wally, my math has been off the last 2 or 3 weeks, so I'm going to hold up 3 fingers just for no apparent reason. Because I am picking the 17 car to become the first man since Bobby Allison to win the 500 and the Coke Zero 400 in the same season.
And that happened in 1982. We could make history. First time in 30 years. Good picks, guys. Good luck to you on your pick. And we have some more breaking news. Guess who's made it to Daytona? Sam Hornish Jr. Will he make it behind the wheel of the 22 car? We've got the watch on it. We'll follow that story when our race coverage begins. That's next. Thank you for watching Countdown to Green. Live from Daytona. We're going wide open after a break. Daytona.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise and remove your hats as the Naval Air Station Jacksonville Color Guard present our nation's colors. Please remain standing as Pastor Sonny Gallman from Central Baptist Church in Daytona Beach offers tonight's invocation.
Loving God, we invoke your presence tonight by asking you to bless us and bless our fellowship here tonight. We ask that you would bless the drivers and their crews, that you would keep them safe, that you would keep them focused on the task at hand. And on this week that we celebrate our independence, bless our troops and bless troops around the world who stand for justice and for freedom. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Here to perform the national anthem, please welcome the anchor of HLN's Morning Express with Robin Meade, Robin Meade.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in there gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Let's hear it for Robin Meade and tonight's flyover of the B-52 out of Barksdale Air Force Base. Ladies and gentlemen, in honor of the July 4th holiday weekend, we have some very special guests we would like to recognize. Each of these individuals went above and beyond the call of duty while participating in daring operations against enemy forces, earning each of them the Congressional Medal of Honor.
The Medal of Honor recipients tonight: Jack H. Jacobs, Michael John Fitzmaurice, James Allen Taylor, and Robert Martin Patterson. As we celebrate our nation's independence this weekend, we thank these four men, as well as servicemen and women around the country and around the world, for protecting our freedom.
It seems so basic. The air we breathe, the words we speak. They're just gas molecules in motion. The same particles that carry a bird in the ocean breeze or lift a plane into the sky. This is aerodynamics, and it is the law of the land in Daytona. But it can be an unforgiving tyrant. Step out of line, and you will be sent to the back. Try to overpower its rule and get tossed on your head. But it is not without the values we celebrate. It rewards those who work together.
They are a great pair, very strong and touches in the front.
And if the majority wants the high line, then the high line wins out.
Go to the outside, you can finish now.
But in the end, the promise of grandeur leaves every man fighting for himself, subject to the temperament and wrath of whichever way the wind blows.
Sideways off the corner. Now the big one.
The Coke 0400 at Daytona is next.
Yes, the draft is back at Daytona. as we close in on the start of the Coke Zero 400, powered by Coca-Cola. Gorgeous night for racing here this evening. Temperature right now, 86 degrees. The humidity is up, partly cloudy skies, and as of now, no rain in the area. We all know the weather in Central Florida is unpredictable, just like the racing. I take you back to 2002. That's when Ward Burton got the win in the Great American Race for Bill Davis. He shocked the racing world. The next summer, Greg Biffle getting it done as a rookie, his first career victory. And we've had close finishes. Jamie McMurray knocking off Kyle Busch in 2007. And then you had Ryan Newman with an assist from his teammate Kurt Busch getting the trophy of the 500 in 08. Last year, amazing. Trevor Bayne, the youngest ever winner at Daytona. And 1 year ago, David Redding with his first ever win on NASCAR's biggest stage. So who will it be tonight? And what role will tonight's race play when it comes to a run to a championship? Well, if you look at the standings outside the top 10, there are 4 drivers that have a victory. Right now, Kyle Busch leading the wild card standings, and Casey Kane has the tiebreaker over Ryan Newman and Joey Logano. But don't forget about Carl Edwards, Paul Menard. You got Jeff Gordon and Marcos Ambrose. A victory here tonight, and they can be right back in the playoff picture, because at this time of year, it's win or bust.
To make the chase, you have to win at least 2 races, I believe, if you're not in the top 10 in points.
I think we're at the border point now of racing your way in, just numerically based off where the points are for the top 10 and where we are as a group, the guys with 1 win, and getting that second or even maybe potentially a third to lock yourself into a wild card position.
You know, you don't want to have to get in by the wild card. You want to get in by points. So we're looking for max points, max fun, and max wins. So we'll see what happens.
Yes, we will, Jeff. It's going to be fun tonight. Number of drivers with plenty of anxiety as we get set to go green, and their playoff hopes hanging in the balance. For more, let's send it down to Ralph Shaheen.
Adam, one of the guys right in the middle of that wild card roller coaster is going to be Kyle Busch. He's 12th right now in the points. He lost a race here in July by 5 thousandths of a second in 2007, came back and won in 2008. This year, he lost 3 engines, but also has a win at Richmond. Maybe a win here tonight, Chris, can help him secure a wild card position.
Ralph, with Casey Kane's 1 win and his 2nd place last week at Kentucky, he currently holds on to that 2nd wild card, and he knows if he can get 1 more win, that could be the tipping point that gets him into the chase. But also 1 misstep, he hands that wild card back to Ryan Newman or Joey Logano. It's a very fine line, but at least he's starting up front tonight. Marty?
Well, Chris, we just saw Carl Edwards 11th in the championship standings, 0 wins, currently out of the chase. And 2 weeks ago, he told me, not worried about making the chase. I feel like our speed is good enough to make the chase. They've had a couple of poor finishes, a bad call on pit road last week. Carl told me earlier this week we have to race the next 9 weeks like we're racing for the championship every week. We have to go out and earn that chase spot, Nat.
Marty, no driver in tonight's field can handle pressure-packed situations more and this race to Richmond and focus on the task at hand and produce than Jeff Gordon, the 4-time champ. Over the next 9 racetracks, he's combined for 36 wins. Now his team, they've worked a lot on the temperature management, the things that we will deal with tonight racing here at Daytona. Gordon's optimism extremely high. This team feels like they are going to play spoiler, and they will race their way in with a few wins for this chase of 2012. From one Daytona winner to another. Larry Mack?
Well, Matt, that driver's going to be so busy tonight watching those gauges. His most important team member could be that spotter.
And Larry, it's time to make it all happen. Right now, we send it trackside here at Daytona International Speedway, the world's center of racing for the most famous words in motorsports. Here's our command.
Ladies and gentlemen, here to deliver the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome 2-time national champion football coach, Bobby Bowden.
On behalf of Coach Zero and college football rivalries everywhere, drivers, start your dadgum engines.
I don't know. So good to have you with us at Daytona International Speedway with Kyle Petty and Wally Dallenbach. I'm Adam Alexander. And Kyle, I'm going to steal a line from Larry McReynolds and say if you are in this race, you got a chance to win this race. That is what makes it so great.
Yeah, and I believe that. I truly do. We saw in the nationwide race guys that came from the back to the front, guys that went from the front to the back, but it didn't make any difference. If their car started, they had a shot at winning this race. And the way this race will play out with these guys worried about temperature, trying to manipulate that, trying to look after where their equipment and figure out where they're at. I think when it comes down to the end, it doesn't make any difference. Tony Stewart's gone back to what, 42nd? Yeah, he may be standing in victory lane when this thing's over.
And one of the other drivers back toward the back of the field with him is Dale Earnhardt Jr. And he said something interesting this weekend, Wally. He said, if you're going to win this race, you got to be a jerk. Why?
Well, if you talk about jerks, you're looking at one of the best out right here. No, I think what he said is the deal is at this racetrack, you're going to work with your teammates. You're going to play nice for most of the race. But if you're going to win this race, you've got to be a jerk. You don't have any friends at the end of the race. It used to be, yeah, you needed a dancing partner, you needed a friend at the end of the race. But this thing's got so aggressive these days. These guys are all out for themselves, especially when it gets down towards the finish. It's going to be pretty cool.
And I think the three of us agree this is one of the best nights on the NASCAR schedule. 400 miles at Daytona. There will be plenty to watch on TNT here this evening. What a great scene. NASCAR racing here at the World Center of Speed. Our wide open coverage begins next. The Coke Zero 400 on TNT, brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero. Real Coke taste and 0 calories. Daytona, one of the great venues in all of sports. And for the 6th consecutive year, Turner Sports is going to bring you all the action in our wide open coverage. NASCAR on TNT bringing you the Coke Zero 400 at Daytona, powered by Coca-Cola. And there is no way we could do this if we didn't have amazing support from our sponsors. We'd like to thank them right now, starting with Sprint, Toyota, hashtag NASCAR on Twitter.com, Viagra, Geico, Goodyear, Ram Trucks, and of course, Coke Zero. And Coke Zero is giving fans at home a chance to enjoy everything on every lap in tonight's race that ends in 0. For your chance to win on a Coke Zero lap, text TASTE to 26739 or visit CokeZeroLap.com. The cars have rolled off, and now we look at our Coke Zero starting grid for this evening's 400-miler here at Daytona. Front row, drivers that have won 3 of the last 5 Daytona 500s, Matt Kenseth and Ryan Newman. Tony Stewart qualified second, but his time disallowed. He will start 42nd tonight. Row 2, Casey Kane and Greg Biffle. Biffle got his first career win here. It came back in 2003. How about row 3, Jeff Gordon and Bill Elliott. These two have had a lot of success at the World Center of Racing, combining for some 10 victories on the high banks at Daytona. At row 4, you see Sam Hornish Jr. in for the suspended A.J. Allmendinger. He will have to drop to the back because of the driver change. And starting on row 5 right behind him, his teammate Brad Keselowski alongside Marcus Ambrose. Yes, Sam has climbed in the 22, and he will make his way off pit road.
What time is it right now? 7:50? Yeah, right along there. He didn't land until like 7:25. Yeah, no. I mean, this is a big story. I'm saying, with everything that's gone on with AJ, you know, this is like watching an NBA game and they've suspended a player right before, and it's one of the team's star players. This is a star player for the 22 team.
No laps.
No laps. And now we're asking a guy to come in that doesn't even really play for this team, plays for a minor league part of this team, which is the Penske organization. Come in, jump in this car, and run a cup race at this level. This is a big story.
The announcement from NASCAR at 6 o'clock. He landed, as you said, Kyle, at 7:25. He was by the car on the grid at 7:31. Now let's check in on the pace laps with Trevor Bayne. Wally?
Hey, Trevor, this is Wally Dallenbach in the TNT booth. Got a copy?
Yes, sir, I got.
Well, you know how to win at this place. You're not running the full season. You don't have as many opportunities as these other guys. On a personal note, What's this mean to you to have a good run tonight?
Well, it's just really important to do the best we can every time we come to the track. Since we're not here that often, we've got fast race cars and we've had some solid runs this year, but this is definitely a place where it evens out the playing field a little bit for the part-time teams like ourselves. You know, you can go up here and draft a little bit and have some fun with it also, and it's going to be a fun race. You just got to stay out of trouble. So that's my plan tonight. Keep this engine cool, stay out of trouble, and see if we can do what we did in February 2011.
Good luck, Trevor. We'll be watching.
Yes.
Trevor comfortable inside his race car, and so is Sam Hornish Jr. We have told you his story. It's tough to fly in and get in the car and go. Here's what he said a moment ago.
Sam, they want to make sure you're fully comfortable before you pull off.
Everything feels good here. I'm as comfortable as I'm going to be.
And now we get a final word from our pit reporters, and we start things off with Matt Yoakum.
Well, we documented earlier that Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s mentality for tonight: leave your emotions and your friendships in the motorhome lot. This type of restrictor plate racing, much closer to his heyday when he was so proficient plate racing, scoring 7 wins and 3rd on the all-time list. Now, their car very fast. He's really happy with the speed, but also he's happy with how his car they expect to be as the tires start to show some wear and age. Keep an eye on the 88 because this is right up his wheelhouse, looking for another win here tonight. Ralph?
Matt, Ryan Newman hasn't had a top 10 in a restrictor plate race in the last 12 events. However, he did win the Daytona 500 in 2008. And crew chief Tony Gibson just told me we have an extremely fast race car and it's good enough to win if we're at the front near the end. And oh, by the way, when he won in 2008, he drove a blue car. Same color tonight, Chris.
Ralph, the handcuffs are off. With 3 wins, Brad Keselowski is confident that he is in the chase, and he's confident that he can win here tonight, too. He won at Talladega earlier in the year, and when I spoke to him earlier, he said that this is the best plate car he has ever had. He said the car is incredibly comfortable in the draft, and most importantly, running very cool in the draft. Larry?
Chris, we talked about it in the Countdown to Green. Only 4 times in the history of Daytona has a driver swept the races in a single season. Last time, 30 years ago, Bobby Allison in 1982. But now Marty Snyder is with the crew chief. He knows his driver's leaving at the end of the season, but he's going to work hard to help him become the 5th.
And Matt told me earlier this week, he said eventually somebody's going to sweep a race, a season here at Daytona. Let's talk to Jimmy Finnegan. I talked to Matt a moment ago. He said absolutely no plan for him to drop back in the field. Why run up front all night long, Jimmy?
Well, we're here to win the race, you know, and Matt wants to run up front. I like running up front, and we're going to lead all these laps. We'll be there at the end, right?
That's absolutely right. And he said, I don't want to play it conservative because, A, when you get back in the pack, you risk the chance of getting in a wreck. But, B, when you're back there, the engine temperature tends to get a little bit hotter. So he wants to run up front, keep that engine cool all evening long, Adam.
That's certainly something we'll be following throughout the night, Marty. And now we go to our Twitter poll question. If you'd like to be involved in NASCAR, go to twitter.com/#NASCAR. Question for tonight on tonight's final lap: would you rather be the race leader or not? And you can tweet us your answers. Tweet #WhiteFlagLeader or #WhiteFlagNot to vote. What do you think, Wally?
I think I would like to be in the lead, only because you may not get back to the checkered before the caution comes out on the last lap.
Now our race analysis for the Coke Zero 400. 160 laps making up the 400 miles. A big pit window here just because there are so many different things that can happen to you over the course of a run. Pit road speed 55 miles per hour. And to the rear, the 9 of Marcos Ambrose. Sam Hornish Jr., who's in that 22 car for A.J. Allmendinger, and that not the only driver change. It's Michael McDowell now in the 98 for Mike Bliss, who practiced and qualified that car the last couple of days. It's been a long day for all these teams and drivers. And now finally, you get the opportunity to do what you came here to get done. And that's go after a trophy in the Midsummer Classic at Daytona. Matt Kenseth at the pole sitter elects the outside lane. Lights are off on the pace car. It is on pit road, and we are set to go racing tonight. Under the lights at the World Center of Racing, green flag in the air, and here we go. say, why did Matt Kenseth choose the outside lane? You see Denny Hamlin sliding down below the yellow line, down the back straightaway. And by the way, that double yellow line, out of bounds. If you advance your position going below the double yellow line, you will be black flagged by NASCAR if they deemed you were doing it with intent. But Kenseth took that outside lane probably because Greg Biffle, his teammate, was starting fourth, and that put him right behind him. And Kenseth leads the opening lap.
Well, you see these guys working up on the high side already. Looked like they were making some ground there for a little bit.
See Kevin Harvick poking his car out of line.
And
he's off the pace, isn't he?
He dropped way down on the line. Like he's getting to the back.
Yep, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, he was just getting out of the way.
Go back there, ride, and make sure you don't have any big problems in the pack.
And again, for everybody at home, you can drive below that yellow line all you want to, as long as you don't advance your position.
Absolutely.
So every time don't tweet everybody and don't call your neighbors when somebody drives below that yellow line, unless they advance their position.
What Kevin Harvick was doing there, very smart. Get out of the way and go to the back rather than trying to do it right in the middle of a bunch of race cars. That outside lane right now being led by Juan Pablo Montoya. Red, white, and blue colors this weekend as a part of the NASCAR Unites program. Jimmy Johnson right behind him.
Yeah, we see a guy in the middle right there. We see a car there in the middle, and we saw it work, Kyle, last night in the Nationwide race a lot. And you can do it when you've got fresh tires. Once these tires go off and you get to a corner and you're in the middle, I mean, it feels like Porky Pig waddling around out there.
Yeah, because there's no air in the middle. There's no air at all in the middle. And we saw it for 8 or 10 laps in the Nationwide race when it first started, but then it would go away, and then we'd see the guys get spread out a little bit.
On board here with Jeff Burton, who jumped in the outside lane. He appears to be floating to the back, trying to keep his nose clean early.
But some of these guys they'll catch on to these cars coming up the middle. You see the outside lane, see how Jeff Gordon is running tight on the bottom now. You don't want to leave any lane open. I mean, especially the middle. At this point, you're looking in your mirror as much as you are looking at the windshield, because you want to make sure the guy behind you isn't going to go on the high side of you to the right. That's why I think the bottom line is a preferred line with a lot of these guys, because you're only going to pass me on one side if I'm on the bottom, and that's to my right. When you're on the high side, you've got to watch your middle, and you've got to watch way on the outside. So you're doing a lot of mirror driving.
Yeah, a lot of mirror driving, and we saw that and on Countdown to Green in the interview with Jimmy Johnson when he was with Ned Jarrett and Bill Elliott and those guys. He said when he won down here, he just got to the yellow line and just stayed on the yellow line the whole race. And he thought he was going to run second, and it just opened up, and everything was good for him. Menard looks like he's off the pace right there.
I think that's just another Childress car probably going to the back to join up with Harvick.
And they've all three done it. Jeff Burton did it on the high side. The 27 and 29 did the same.
I mean, I think those guys are just going to sit back there and ride this thing out for a while. I mean, obviously they want to hook up and eventually make their way, but right now they're just going to be comfortable, I think, just hanging out back there to see what develops.
Most of the time when you drop to the back, you don't do it that dramatic. You kind of work your way back there. But just to pull over and slam on brakes to go to the back is a little dramatic.
Matt Kenseth has led every lap tonight. Started on the pole.
Maybe he saw something he didn't like.
Kenseth drafting with his teammate. Very similar to what we saw here in Daytona in February when he got the victory in the 500. Wide open race coverage plus real Coke taste and 0 calories. Coke Zero wants you to enjoy everything about tonight's race. Was giving fans at home a chance to enjoy everything on every lap in tonight's race that ends in 0. For your chance to win on a Coke Zero lap, text TASTE to 26739 or visit CokeZeroLap.com.
Now that outside line, you got almost all the Hendrick cars hooked up. You got Casey Kane there. You got Jeff Gordon, Montoya, and then Jimmy Johnson. Just see if these guys can make something happen on that outside. So far, it just doesn't look like it's happening.
Saw the Busch brothers work together last night in Nationwide Series competition. Larry, what are you seeing tonight?
Well, what I'm seeing, think about it. There are 3 Joe Gibbs Racing drivers, and already we've seen Denny Hamlin in 11, Joey Logano on the 20 somewhat try to hook up. So that pretty much leaves Kyle Busch, odd man out. Guess who he has found? Remember, his brother Kurt Busch started deep in the field back in the 33rd position up there working with his brother Kyle.
And we should point out as well, Kurt won the Nationwide race here last night.
And these guys will find each other a lot of help from the spotters. You know, you're going to ask your spotter, hey, where is so-and-so? And you could actually work your way to the back to get to who you want to work with. And then you start moving forward again. And you'll see a lot of that going on tonight.
Been an interesting afternoon for Sam Hornish Jr., Chris.
Yeah, Adam, that announcement about A.J. Allmendinger happened at 6 p.m. The team immediately called Sam Hornish Jr. in Charlotte to get him to the racetrack. I checked in with the team at 6:20. They were changing out the seat, the pedals, and also moving the steering column in that car, getting it ready for Sam Hornish. At 6:25, I checked with crew chief Todd Gordon, and he said Sam Hornish was still on the ground in Charlotte, and they were scared that he wasn't going to make it to the racetrack. That was still plan A, to get Sam Hornish in the car. Plan B was potentially get Kenny Wallace in that car. But Sam obviously showed up 7:25, made it into the car, made it into the race. Right now, he just said over the radio, guys, I'm just chilling here. The car's working great, just hanging out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, he's run 10 laps, but he's already set. I mean, you don't forget how to do this. But what he did is, you know, he just got in there trying to feel the car out, make, you know, obviously he hasn't turned a lap here all week. So, you know.
Not in a cup car.
Not in a cup car.
Not in a cup car, exactly. But the advantage that he does have over Kenny was not in the cup or in the Nationwide race last night. Sam was. So the advantage that he does have, he has run the Cup Series in the past, and he does. He was here last night at what, 10:30, 11 o'clock before he went home.
No problems in regard to experience for the 24 team and Jeff Gordon, Matt.
Adam, he's 13th on the board, but he's third in line in the outside lane. And during our countdown to green, Kyle and Wally, they talked about just the lane preference. Going back to the Daytona 500 where the bottom works better and then the outside came in. That's exactly what Jeff Gordon is hoping and waiting on right now. Just being patient. He told Eddie DeHunt, his spotter, I'm just going to ride up here with my teammate, and hopefully as the tires start to go away, this lane will really start to come in.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Matt. I mean, what's going to happen? The handling is going to start coming into these cars. You know, these cars work so good on fresh tires. In the first 10 or 15 laps, you can't do anything wrong with these cars. But as you get some wear on these tires, that's when you'll start seeing cars slide around. And if you've got a good setup, that's where you start making forward ground. So, like you say, they're trying to hang out on that high line, just hoping for some of these tires to wear off so it settles things down a little bit.
Interesting, in that outside lane, you've got Casey Kane and Jeff Gordon running nose to tail. Both drivers need a win. Kane to help his wild card chances, and Gordon to get back in the wild card conversation.
I don't think that's really probably what they're thinking
about.
Not
right now.
We are, but that's not what they're thinking about. You know, again, you know, this part of the race, you like to find your teammates and just kind of ride a little bit, get things, you know, get a good feel for the car, but you won't have a teammate at the end of this thing.
Matt Kenseth is picked up right where he left off. 1 to 500. He's led every lap tonight.
You know, we hadn't talked about it. I think Bill Elliott has picked up right where he left off. I mean, qualified good, and he's stuck up there. We've run 12 laps here, and he's in third. We've seen him qualify pretty good in the past and drop to the back like some of those other guys and wait for that position. But, you know, for the first 10 or 12 laps of the race, this is Bill Elliott of old running up front.
That's the Cup debut for Turner Motorsports. TNT's Wide Open coverage is brought to you by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Might have noticed while we were listening to our friends at Sprint that Casey Kane and Jeff Gordon both went to the high side, drifted toward the tail of the pack. Let's get an update on the race leader. Matt Kenseth strong right now, Marty.
Well, we also talked about those RCR cars falling to the back. Jeff Burton said his water temperature was 255 after 3 laps in the draft, the exact opposite for Matt Kenseth. This was a plan all along. We talked to Jimmy Finning about it before the race started. If he could hook up with Greg Biffle, they wanted to run up front as much as they could. Oil and water temperatures very low for Kenseth right now, leading all the laps. Ralph.
Marty, Ryan Newman's a little bit loose in the number 39. In fact, his spotter asked if he wanted him to talk to the spotter of the 56, Martin Truex, to get him to close in a little bit. Ryan said, absolutely not. I'm loose enough as it is. They're going to wait and try to take the track bar down a couple of rounds, Chris, on the first round of pit stops.
Well, Brett Keselowski sitting in 7th right now. When I spoke to him earlier, I asked him if that great drafting move that he used at Talladega to win the race would work here. He said he thinks it would. He just has to take into consideration where start-finish here. It's a little bit closer to turn 4, so he thinks he's going to have to back that move up a little bit earlier into turn 3. Matt?
Chris, shortly after the drop of the green flag, Ty Norris and Billy O'Day were working to try to get their 2 drivers, Kevin Harvick and his former teammate Clint Bowyer, together. They're running near the tail end of the second pack, just being patient and riding, knowing there's so many laps left, keeping a good management control over their temperature. And basically, Brian Patty, that was his game plan going in. He was hoping, just ride at the back to try to keep yourself out of trouble, because we've had so few incidents this week. They could just feel like this could just be one of those e-ticket type of nights.
And Matt, you talk about Bowyer and Harvick. They have combined to win 4 of the last 10 races at restrictor plate tracks in NASCAR's top series. Pretty good combo to be working together here tonight. You ever get concerned in a situation like this, Wally, that you could lose the draft? Or you
Absolutely. That's one thing about dropping back like that and kind of riding. If the race goes green a long ways, you could lose the draft. And I mean, it's happened a lot before. So that's just one of those things that you check. I mean, normally you're going to get a caution, but boy, that's the biggest concern you have is, man, if I lose this draft, I'm in big trouble.
Pretty decent night going right now for Marcos Ambrose, Larry.
Well, you just think about it. He qualified 11th, but he was one of 3 drivers that had to drop to the rear of the field because this was an impound race. You can't work on the race car. They had unapproved adjustments, so he started way back there with Sam Hornish Jr. and Tony Stewart, and he had just about cracked the top 10 right now. He's in 11th, but Wally and Kyle, I'm seeing one of the same things that we saw in the Daytona 500 in February. It's like the outside line just can't move forward, it seems like.
Yeah, they've been struggling since the green flag dropped, Larry, and nobody has made any gains. And we've seen different guys leading that outside line, and you think eventually somebody's going to get up there that's going to be able to pull the rest of the cars up, but nobody's been able to do it yet.
You know, and just as Larry said, we saw it in the 500. Do you think it's because they've repaved the racetrack? You know, a lot of places we go and they repave a racetrack, the groove goes back to the bottom of the racetrack because there's so much grip. And these guys that talked in February how much grip there was, that the faster way was around the inside. And it could just be because of the pavement, because in the past, the high line has been that one that got that momentum.
And don't forget about the bumps that you got down in 1 and 2. So if you ran the low line and you go through those bumps over there in 1 and 2, it was a handful, and it would move the car around. So that could have a lot to do with it, yeah.
The top 8 cars in that bottom line, about 7 or 8 of them that are lined up nose to tail. In the outside lane, you get about 9 deep before they start stacking up. So that gives you an idea of where that wall comes if they hit. And right now, that's Michael Waltrip in the 55, leading that group in the outside lane with Kurt Busch right behind him.
Hey, he's got, you know, that's a strong outside line right there. They're just not able to make any moves up towards the front. See how they're keeping tight down to that bottom line. They're actually trying to get some side draft. You see the 55 car go down on Trevor Bayne's car. You actually try to get as close as you can. You get a little bit of side draft off these cars, and it may pull you up just 2 or 3 feet, but you got to keep doing it because it works.
There is a science to racing this way. There is no question about it. Told you about Michael Waltrip in that outside lane. He's had a lot of success here at Daytona, including his first career victory in the 500 back in February of 2001. You can continue to watch his progress as we do a little business. TNT's wide open coverage tonight, brought to you in part by Ram Trucks. Guts, glory, Ram. One of the keys to being successful at Daytona, communication. And there are issues in that category right now for the 18 team of Kyle Busch. He's running 9th, but he was talking a moment ago about not being able to hear his spotter. Listen in.
40, 20, up top, 5 total.
You see him messing with his, he's trying to see if the connection is uploaded.
All right, off 4, still single file.
Sounds like there's a mic stuck open.
Yeah, it sounds like
one of the crew guys or somebody's got a mic stuck open. That's why he can't hear a spotter.
Yeah, he's trying to tell them that he's got a stuck mic. Somebody's got a stuck mic.
Ralph?
Well, one of the things they did was they talked about it. Kyle asked, is anybody hearing this that I'm hearing? And what they did was they all switched to channel 2, so they're good there now. I can hear the conversation going back and forth. They're good to go.
This night nerve-wracking enough.
Yeah.
And then you have to listen to that.
You know, it is. It's aggravating. It's happened to all of us, and it's very distracting when you're out here racing, especially in a place like this.
Yeah, and you could really hear that it was an open mic in the pit when they came through the trial. It got really loud in Kyle's ear, or his transmission got really loud, and that's just. It's hard to explain to people sitting at home that you get in a rhythm. You get into a rhythm of people talking to you at a certain time, and when that mic's hung open, it stands on your last nerve.
Not much changing on track. Matt Kenseth continues to lead. Hashtag NASCAR lets you hear it first and see it instantly from the insiders. Go to twitter.com/#NASCAR. .26 of 160 laps complete at Daytona International Speedway in the Coke Zero 400 powered by Coca-Cola. Matt Kenseth is the race leader. Started on poles, led all 26 laps. He and Greg Biffle in a rhythm right now. And right behind him, Bill Elliott.
And
Carl Edwards, Ryan Newman, the top 5.
These guys in the top 5 or that bottom on, the bottom lane there that's running, they're all content. They're just going to sit there and they're going to keep riding and they're going to keep logging laps. Just, nobody can pass each other right now. 55 is starting to make a little bit of ground on these guys, but not much.
Michael Waltrip making some progress in that outside lane. We will update you on his situation when we return. Got to take a 90-second local break, and then we'll return to the world center of racing. We're under the lights on the beach. NASCAR on TNT, back in Daytona, bringing you live coverage of the Coke Zero 400 powered by Coca-Cola. And tonight's aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, proudly supporting our military for 100 years. Show your support for our troops at Goodyear.com. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Now, if you're going to win this race, you got to keep the engine cool. It tends to overheat when you get in the draft. Understand the 24 team having some problems, Matt.
Adam, when Jeff Gordon was running in line with his teammate Casey Kane, he told the spotter, please tell Casey, don't drag the brake and back up to me. And then this is some more conversation. He was telling Alan Gustafson on the radio about his engine issues.
I mean, you just can't race, all I do is go get up in there, and we're going to be warm again, so I just got to keep this gap.
There, 10-4. We're doing fine. There's plenty of time here.
Yeah, I think we just need to explain some of the rules that NASCAR's put in place, but the biggest reason is why did they put these rules in place is to bust up the two-driver tandem. But they have a maximum capacity on the radiator at 2 gallons. This is a pressurized water system, and it has a pressure relief valve, and it goes off. It starts spitting water out at 32 PSI. Plus, the grill opening has been moved up into the front bumper area, and you have to run it 2.5 tall by 20 wide, and then also they have lowered the rear bumpers by 2 inches to block air when a driver is pushing another driver. All these 4 or 5 things was done to bust up the two-driver tandem, guys.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, Larry. It was NASCAR made these rules for all these fans on Twitter and all these people that are sitting at home complaining about it. They made these rules to break up the tandem because everybody complained about the tandem. Now NASCAR breaks up the tandem and everybody's complaining about this style of racing. This is a style of racing that we've had for so long. You've got to stay off each other. You have to give each other a little bit of room, and you've got to be able to make a move on your own. It's not team racing. It's individual racing. And right now, these guys are in the early stages of the race, and we've heard some of these guys from the pit reports down here that these cars aren't handling best. So they're going to make their first pit stops. They'll get their cars driving a little bit better. But we're always going to have an issue with the overheating problems we always have in the past if you run too close to somebody.
Yeah, but don't forget, I mean, you know, we're 30 laps in. I don't want to say these guys aren't trying that hard, but they're not trying that hard.
No,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? They're riding right now. They're just trying to keep their equipment underneath them. They haven't even gotten to their first pit stop yet. So, I mean, you know, now's not the time to be forcing the issue.
You mentioned pit stop. In our race analysis tonight, we said the window somewhere between 44 and 50 laps. Right now we've completed 33, so sometime next 10, 12 laps we could see some guys coming down pit road under green. That's a big challenge to get onto pit road and give up position at a high rate of speed. What do you see, Larry?
Well, I've been watching Sam Hornish Jr. in that yellow number 22 car. When we dropped the green flag, he kind of stayed back a little bit. I think he just wanted to get a feel for what was going on out here, even though he ran the Nationwide Series race, started back in the 40th position. He has now cracked the top 20, so I think he's starting to get comfortable with where he's at in this 22 car.
And that's impressive. That is impressive for somebody to show up, and I don't care if he did run here yesterday, like I said, for somebody to show up, change a seat, adjust the pedals, adjust the steering column, and get in a car that you haven't been in and go out and race against these drivers of this caliber. That's impressive that he's come from the back to the front like that.
Wally, easier to do what Sam is doing tonight at a place like Daytona or a place like Kentucky or Bristol?
Oh, absolutely. Daytona, I mean, you know, the cars work pretty good, and you're pretty much flat out around this place. And, you know, Sam's got a lot of laps around here. So, yeah, this is a pretty, if you're going to jump in a car with no practice in a Cup car at some racetrack, this is the place to do it.
Can you continue to watch Sam's progress? And we tell you this, TNT's Wide Open coverage brought to you in part by #NASCAR on Twitter.com. We continue to watch that outside lane for Michael Waltrip, and he simply can't do much better than what he's doing right now.
He has been stuck there at about the same spot for the last 15 or 20 laps.
Tell you somebody to keep an eye on. 4 cars behind him. You got Landon Castleton at Burger King number 83. We made the point earlier. If you're in this race, you got a chance to win it. 1 year ago, David Reagan made a name for himself. Perhaps the door is open for Landon Castle tonight, a youngster out of Iowa who has really done a nice job for BK Racing in 2012.
Jump on board here on the 48 car. This is a really cool shot to begin with, but you kind of keep an eye on his gauges, and these gauges will turn red when things start to heat up. If you look at his dash, this gauge over here is turning red, and then we got this one right over here. It's flickering red as well every once in a while. So he's obviously keeping an eye on that, and I don't know how you can't. When it goes red, you can pretty much see it. but he's going to be talking to his team about it, and obviously monitor. He's got to monitor those temperatures.
And because of the importance of temperature, do you want certain gauges in different places when it comes to a race like this?
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, as long as it stays white and it just flicks red, you're doing your job. You're keeping that car cool. That's what's important, is when those gauges go to red and they stay red, then you've got a problem.
Hey, Wally, the most important gauges would certainly be water temperature, and we talked about it being a pressurized system, water pressure. I almost get a feeling that Jimmy Johnson has had his 48 team move those two gauges up to the top of the dash, more in his sight line. Now, the other thing you have to be cognizant of, when you're on the throttle as much as these drivers are, is all temp. That certainly can get up there, and a lot of times that will actually bring the water temp up with it.
Yeah, I can't tell which gauges he's got up there, Larry.
But this is not something you would see at a regular race.
Absolutely, yeah. No, they're definitely wanting to get your attention on what these temperatures are doing. And I've been watching him also. He's sticking his nose out quite a bit. He's dropping back. He's doing a pretty good job trying to get as much air to the front of that car as possible.
The mental aspect of being successful at Daytona and Talladega, simply amazing.
Is that car right outside of you?
And that's interesting. And Wally pointed that out early with those two gauges up there, and we heard Larry say it. You put it in the driver's line of sight, so even if they're not looking at it when it turns red, a lot of these guys, if you go back in racing 10 or 15 years, a lot of teams would put a red light on the dash at Martinsville to make those guys keep their foot off the brake, just to make sure their foot was off the pedal.
You also look at the way he's got his mirrors in this car. This is typically, pretty much the mirror that you run every single week. But this mirror right here, this is giving you a shot of your blind spot.
Yeah.
And that's something here. Listen, your spotters are really important at this racetrack, but you have got to know where the race car is. You got to know where everybody is around you.
Yeah. Again, for the fans at home, that's not a vanity mirror. Okay. Sorry.
And the green flag pit stops are underway. First of the night coming at lap 40. Kyle Busch is in for service. Going to be 4 tires for him. Bobby Labonte right behind him. Kurt Busch, Joey Logano also making stops. Matt?
And Kevin Harvick has already completed his team service on his number 29 machine. He had hung at the back and then got it to about 23rd, so that way, no matter what other team strategy was, you see a lot of cars have hit pit road. Less cars for him to deal with, and we've got more cars. Dale Earnhardt Jr. making his way in.
They are smoking those tires as they come to pit road to make sure they are not caught speeding, Chris.
Brad Keselowski very happy with the 2 tonight. No changes to that car. It's been running cool. He's happy with it. Going to be fuel tires. Don't know if we're going to go 2 tires or 4 tires. Doing right side tires now. Wait and see if we get the left side here.
The 39 car, Ryan Newman, called in aero tight. They made a track bar adjustment on that, put 4 tires and fuel, and also made an air pressure adjustment. He's away.
I'm going to tell you something. When that 2 came in, I noticed his right front tire was flat, and he locked it up so hard getting into pit lane.
That's exactly right. I mean, you looked up toward turn 4, entering the trial, but it looked like there was a huge wreck because of all the smoke coming off the tires as they got woed down. The race leader making his pit stop first of the night, going to come at lap 42, Marty.
Well, and Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth making a pit stop here together. They both joke kind of nice up here up front. The water temperatures for these guys, believe it or not, 210 degrees. Some guys in the back, 270. Neither car will have an adjustment, and it's going to be 4 tires for both of these Roush cars on pit road together, trying to leave pit road together. They have worked excellently so far, with Matt Kenseth leading every lap in the race so far.
That's how you want to come into pits and lead the pits. You want to all come out together. You get hung up a little bit in pit lane, and you lose that group of where you guys are drafting with, and it makes it a little bit tough as well.
Marty mentioned that Matt Kenseth had led every lap, led the first 41. David Reagan led a lap in this cycle of green flag pit stops. He has given it up to come to pit road, I do believe. Josh Wise now the race leader.
Now look at this outside line coming, and they've got a head of steam on them. Let's watch the 2 again, because this was pretty cool. He locked this thing up forever. And, you're coming off the racetrack at 197 miles per hour. You're trying to get it down to 55 or whatever pit lane speed is. But he definitely blew that right front coming in.
Wow.
On board here with Jimmy Johnson.
He got in good, though. He got to the line. He probably passed 4 guys.
Look at that.
Getting to the line. It's a good thing they changed right sides.
Yeah, that was awesome, though. I mean, when you pick up 4 or 5 positions right there coming in, that's a huge game, man. That was huge.
And through this cycle of pit stops, it is now Michael Waltrip who had been out front, and now you see it's his teammate Martin Truex Jr. who has the point. Right behind him, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman, there's Waltrip, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., the top 5 at Daytona, as we've completed 44 laps. Notice, like we did, the outside lane starting to make some hay, but the guys that are out there, the pair that dominated the early part of this race on the inside lane.
Yeah, and the outside lane did when there were some sticker tires coming on the outside lane, and the inside had finished. But you know, I don't. It's going to take a while for that outside lane to come in. It may be here by the end of the race. God only knows. But we see them making some ground right there. When you've got good cars like Biffle and those guys, and Matt Kenseth, these guys, these 2 Fords have been fast at every restrictor plate. They can make some time in that lane. I want to go back in the pack there a little bit. There's Bill Elliott again. I'm going to give him another shout out. He was running 3rd or 4th. He comes out of the pits in 15th, 16th, or 17th. That's a brand new team. That's the difference in a pit crew that's here week in and week out, and that's not here week in and week out. So when you look at things like that, it's not what Bill's doing on the racetrack. Sometimes those pit stops are a little bit slower.
And you can't lose sight of the fact that pit road plays a huge role here. You may not think it because it's Daytona, 2.5-mile track. That's not the case. It's big.
But we saw Brad Keselowski, and we saw him pick up 5 or 6 positions coming in, and that totally puts you in a different pack. All of a sudden, you've broken out of the pack that you're in, and you're in a totally separate pack when you leave pit road.
One thing about that, you know, we talked about losing that draft. The 14 and the 2 have lost the draft.
Yes.
So they're all running the same speed right now, but they're not making any gains.
Martin Truex Jr. leading this race on the inside lane, slid up in front of Craig Biffle, who's got drafting help from his Roush Fenway teammates, and they are digging in on the high side.
Kind of gives you a good look of. Oh, Kenseth is pushing water right now.
Yeah, but he's pushed this 16th on the high side. He's pushed Greg Biffle on the high side around, and that's the first time we've really seen that. And you see, they go straight to the bottom, and they hang that outside line out. It'll be interesting to see if the outside line can stay sucked up there and come back with, I guess that's Carl in the 24 car, Jeff Gordon.
I was going to say, if you want to see 2 of the probably strongest cars in the field, you just saw it.
You saw it.
They came up on the outside.
You saw it.
I mean, these 2 really have dominated. We're 1-2 at the end before Dale Jr. went around Greg Biffle in the 500. Of course, Kenseth won, and they were great at Talladega until they got separated late in the race. I'm talking about the 17 and the 16.
Now I think the 17's got to get some air to the front of that thing because it got hot quick too.
But, you know, until that cycle of pit stops, Larry, the 17 hadn't been the pusher. He had been the puller out front all night.
But it's almost like Greg Biffle knows Matt Kenseth needed to get some air into the front of that car. Now, remember, unlike a year ago, these drivers can't talk to each other, but the spotters can talk to each other. I think that's the reason down the front stretch through the tri-oval, Greg Biffle went way up and let some air get through that 17 car just for a moment.
And you can tell how strong that 17 car is. He can pull up on the back of the 16 when he wants.
Yes. He's fast, and I mean, he was fast. We saw being that fast hurt him at Talladega when we saw him break that draft from the 16 there at the end of the race coming out of turn 2. So I think he learned from that, and I think Biffle's learned from that. You know, these two guys have been, as we've said up here a couple of times already, the class of the field on the restrictor plates so far this year.
Let's get a report from Chris Neville.
Earlier, Kasey Kahne was worrying about his water temp when he was behind Jimmy Johnson. His spotter asked him if he could get up there and push Jimmy. He said no, water temp too high. After that last stop, Kasey Kahne went from 14th to 4th, just 2 tires on that stop. His concern right now, splitters hitting the ground.
Yeah, you know, it's cooled off here. I mean, these guys have done the majority of their practice and the majority of their running on this racetrack in the heat of the day. And when this thing, we talk about how much grip it had in February when they repaved it and the tire that Goodyear brought. It was a very grippy racetrack, had a lot of grip built into it. And Daytona's not any different than Chicago or Texas or any other racetrack that you pave. When it gets night and it cools off and the grip comes up, these cars are going to travel, or at least travel, they're going to travel a little bit more. Even on the bump stops, they're going to go in at a faster speed, and they're going to get on that splitter.
Keep an eye on the situation with Kasey Kahne as we step aside. Here's Ryan Newman, driver of the number 39 Army Chevrolet, to tell us about Goodyear's special program to support our troops. Watch tonight's race through the Goodyear in-car camera, only on NASCAR.com's TNT Race Buddy. Michael Waltrip coming up through the middle and trying to move to the outside lane. Bringing Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson with him.
I can't tell Carl just lit up or what. I mean, now he just feels like he's backing off here.
Kyle Busch right now finds himself in the 9th position. On the radio, he was talking about the 2 drivers out in front of the field.
There you have it. Anybody see how the 17, 16 work together at these plate races? That's how you're going to have to do it if you're going to beat them.
Yeah, but they've got pretty strong race cars, too.
Yes.
I mean, there's guys working together on the high side right now. They can't do what Biffle and Kenseth did. Okay, I mean, you got the 24 up there. You've seen a lot of guys, you know, Michael, all these guys got strong cars, but they can't do what those 2 cars did.
Martin Truex Jr. spent some time out front. After a cycle of green flag pit stops, he has slid into the outside lane, trying to make it work.
Ooh, easy, yeah, but just going to go to the middle.
Inside of Michael Waltrip and left the 55 hanging.
But see, and that just butts up the top lane. You know, I mean, just when you think those guys started maybe having a chance to snip to the front, all of a sudden they go 3 wide, and it just scatters everybody.
And that black 49 on the inside, J.J. Yaley, he's a lapped car, and that's why you see him slide into the back so quickly as the lead pack drives around. 54 of 160 laps are complete at Daytona. It has been the Roush Fenway Invitational. Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle have combined to lead 48 laps, all but 6 circuits here tonight. We're going to go away for 90 seconds. More wide open coverage live from Daytona of the Coke 0400 in a moment. Gorgeous night in Daytona Beach, Florida. NASCAR on TNT rolling on with our wide open coverage of the Coke 0400, powered by Coca-Cola. Race leader in this one, Greg Biffle. Matt Kenseth, Casey Kane, Ryan Newman, Dale Earnhardt Jr. make up the top 5. Kyle Busch, Kurt Busch, Martin Truex Jr., Jeff Gordon, and Trevor Bayne are the top 10. Speaking of the 21, let's listen to what they're saying on the radio. Here we go with Inside Tracks.
He was waiting on the pack, you know, to catch him.
Yes, sir.
And he says, go to the outside. Well, that's just giving them room to blow right by you. Why wouldn't you stay on the inside and let them duck in behind you?
I agree. Yes, sir.
I mean, that's just opening the door to get blowed off.
Yes, sir.
At least they'd have to move to the outside.
And see, that's what we were talking earlier. Get down on the inside. Let them go around you. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. And that's Leonard Wood talking. And for you
Hall of
fans
Famer.
Hall of Fame Leonard Wood, who won 1 million races and won here with David Pearson and Cale, has won races here. You think he's not still involved in that? And that's Joe Fiorelli that he's talking to, the car chief. But he's explaining, in all his years of being here, this is where he thinks that Trevor needs to be.
Hey, Kyle, you drove for the Wood brothers, and I agree. Don't you think they ought to pay attention to a man that has been a part of winning 15 races here more than any other organization?
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. He stood on that pit road more than anybody else, Leonard has, and has called home those winners. And when you look at it like that, you know, when he says this guy needs to be on the inside, I would take Leonard Wood's advice over anybody else on pit road and say, get my driver to the inside right now.
I mean, and don't forget, you're talking about a relatively still a rookie in this race car. I mean, you know, and these are things that need to be relayed to him. Say, hey, listen, next time, you know, I mean, this is always a learning process when you're coming to these places like this. You know, you see he jumped to the outside, and I think he jumped to the outside because he saw the 24 coming. Those guys have worked very well together in the past.
Yes, they have.
So I believe he was just content staying on the inside, but when he saw Jeff Gordon out there, he decided maybe we can bring up some of that old magic again.
Yes.
Matt Kenseth riding second right now behind Greg Biffle, Marty.
Well, he made his way back to the front, Adam, but it was a balance to get there. At one point, or a couple of points, Matt thought about pulling out of line because his water temperature, as you guys noted, was getting way too high. Started spewing water at one point, but he didn't want to leave his teammate Carl Edwards hanging out, so he stayed there in line. They eventually did make their way to the front, and hanging out there with his teammate pushing Biffle now. Matt.
Now, Marty, during the first segment of the race, Jeff Gordon had an issue where he was running too warm. He dropped back, got a bigger cushion of fresh air, cooled off his water, and rode it to the first pit stop. Made some big gains, and then about 10 laps ago, his dash lights, which we documented earlier in the show, what they look like, started flashing red. He was too hot again. That's why you're seeing the 24 having a cushion between himself and the 21 of Bayne. He keeps dipping out, guys, trying to get more air in to cool that water temperature.
And, Matt, that's Jamie McMurray in the black car that jumped out in front of Trevor Bayne in that outside lane. You can continue to watch his progress. Witness Kyle Busch's best pit stop ever. Learn more about the reinvented 2012 Camry at toyota.com/Camry. And as you were hearing a word from Toyota, started to see things fanning out a bit in that lead draft. And actually way back behind them, Wally, there are a few drivers that have gotten too far behind the 8 ball.
Well, you were asking Kyle and I about, you know, are you ever worried about losing the draft? These guys have. The 214 are about 2.5 miles per hour slower than that lead pack. They're losing almost a second lap. Now, more than likely, we're going to get a caution. But if you didn't, there's no way you're going to make this time up.
What's up with the 14, Marty?
Well, they made a couple of changes, the old-fashioned tandem drafting, and Tony said on the radio, when we make that swap, we're taking way too long. We're losing a second and a half to the group in front of us. We have to stay in line here and ride for a while. We can't swap out every time we go. He also told his crew the changes we made on the last stop have not made me feel any better. Car was too loose last time, still too loose right now for Stewart, trying to catch that front pack. Chris?
Well, we saw Brad Keselowski running in the top 10. I think it was 7th when he came to pit lane, but because he had that big lockup coming into pit lane, the team had to go from a 2-tire stop to a 4-tire stop. That's why he lost all that track position and now is running with this trio. And earlier he was trying to push along that 34 car. That wasn't working, so now they're trying to move things around and figure out how they can get this threesome of cars moving back towards the front. The 2 car right now, just a little bit tight.
And you know, you've got, what, 90-some laps to go yet. But still, as a driver, you're starting to get anxious at this point because you've lost that group, and you're starting to feel like, oh, man, I hope this thing doesn't go clean the whole time or we're going to be in a lot of trouble. But there's not a whole lot you can do. I mean, you know, when you're 2 miles per hour slower than the lead pack, you're not going to make up 2 miles per hour, not with 3 cars.
You mentioned anxious. Here are a couple of drivers running together that are always anxious. The Busch brothers. And the 18 is Kyle, and the 51 is Kurt. The spotter stand communicating about putting these two together.
So, if you're by Kurt, ask him if he wants to go up there. We just got a tandem till we get there, if he wants to go up there.
Kyle wants to know if you want a tandem just to take the lead or not, but if your water's close, he doesn't care. It's up to you.
Ask him what he's riding around for temperature. Right now, I'm 260, 280 riding around.
Yeah, he says he's a little hotter than he wants to be right now. He can't really push. He's 260, 270.
So you got those guys running on the inside lane. They are scored right now back around 6th or 7th. And now that Jamie McMurray is pulled out in the outside lane, he can't get any further to the front than what he is right now, Wally.
Yeah, we've seen that quite a bit. Now, all of a sudden, 88 jumps out front.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. going to see if he can pull that outside lane around, and to his left is Ryan Newman. Let's get a report there.
Well, the car that Ryan Newman is driving tonight, Adam, has had 3 races at Talladega, but this is the first time this car has seen the pavement here at Daytona, and it's turned out to be a good piece to race here. The only thing he has said about it is that it is a tick tight coming off of turn 4. Outside of that, he's very comfortable as we work our way towards the halfway point, Larry.
Yeah, Ralph, the driver I've been watching is Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that 88 that just jumped to the outside. On that last set of green flag pit stops, we had 9 drivers that just changed right side tires only. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was one of them, but I think he was tired of riding in line, and that's one reason he jumped to the outside to see if they could make some headway.
I'm surprised the 5 didn't jump out in front of Earnhardt the way he was coming.
And you won't miss any of the 88's progress because we're in wide open coverage tonight. Brought to you in part by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Casey Mears driving that Geico 13 car tonight. He's 24th in the race on track. And the man out front continues to be Greg Biffle. His teammate Matt Kenseth dominated early, leading 41 laps from the pole. The 6 team now has had him in tow for some 22 circuits. Next in line in regard to laps led, Josh Wise. He's only led 3 laps this evening. What's the story on our championship leader, Marty?
Well, pretty comfortable where he's at right now, especially water temperature-wise. But, Wally, when you're the driver pushing, you want to be the driver out front, especially when you see that line coming on the high side, don't you? Matt has radioed to his crew, tell Greg we're much faster when I'm out front and he's pushing me. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but Matt wants to be the guy out front, not the guy pushing.
You always say that. Well, my car's much better out front. Let me get in front of you.
And they both better keep an eye to their right, because I don't know if you've noticed, but here he comes, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in that outside lane, starting to make some progress.
I'm still surprised that Casey Kane hasn't jumped to the outside and hook up with his teammate there.
Yes. Yeah, I am too. And this is, you know, and we're talking about pushing. This is not the same style pushing that we used to have. But when you get behind somebody, there's always in a 2 or 3 car draft a car that can lead faster and a car that can follow faster, and that's the way it is. That's why we saw Tony, we saw the 2 car, and we saw David Ragan back in the back trying to swap positions and figure out who was the best one to lead.
Closing on halfway, and they're starting to get antsy. TNT's wide open coverage brought to you in part by Geico. To see how much money you could save, call Geico at 1-800-947-AUTO or go to geico.com. .72 of 160 laps complete here at Daytona. If you're just joining us, we are caution-free. Matt Kenseth started this race on pole. He's led 41 laps, and right now on the inside lane, he's behind teammate Greg Biffle, who is on point. Matt?
Indianapolis winner Paul Menard running back in the 26th position. Now Paul has a vibration which has progressively gotten worse during this run, but it's not in the steering wheel. He feels it more in the headrest when he is pulled back down in the seat, hitting those G's going through the corners. It doesn't happen at all going down the straightaways. So Wally and KP, just how much of an aggravation and how much focus does it take away having to deal with a nuisance like that?
Well, I think the biggest thing is if you don't know what it is, I'm trying to figure out what would cause that in the corners unless something's rubbing, you know, obviously. But that's kind of strange.
And honestly, how many times have you driven where all of a sudden you get cocked in the seat different, or you move around in the seat and your head touches a different place, and it's like, oh my God, what is that?
Yeah, it could be touching the roll bar or something like that.
He could just be in a place on the seat where there's not that padding, and he's actually on the carbon fiber seat, and it's got a little bit different frequency, so it feels like a vibration to him. But as long as he's really not feeling it in his hands or in the seat of his pants, and the steering wheel doesn't get as big as a beach ball, and that's the way they get when they vibrate it feels like, then it's not a major problem. It's more of an aggravation.
And you get used to it. It's an aggravation, but you get used to it. If you're like, okay, all right, the wheel's not going to fall off, or if something's not going to break, eventually you do get used to it. And you can see how tight you sit in these cars nowadays. I mean, basically, you've got these headrests on both sides, especially here at Daytona. I mean, you're pulling some G's in these corners. There's no doubt about it. So those headrests, not only are they there for protection, but they're there to keep your head in place. You know, so you're not falling out of the seat. If these headrests weren't here on this car, like, his head would be way over here going through the corner.
Yeah.
I know this race is incredibly intense from a mental standpoint. We've gone caution-free for 75 laps. Does that start to wear on you as a driver, not having a break under caution?
To me, I don't think it does. I think once you're in that frame of mind and you're concentrating, you're kind of in a zone.
Yeah, you're in a zone.
You know, and you're just doing your deal. I think you know, of course, when a caution comes, it's nice to get a break a little bit, but you know, you're in a zone and you're concentrating. You're not thinking about anything else, so you don't really feel mentally tired until after it's all over.
So Michael Waltrip in the race car. Good look here at Trevor Bayne, last year's 500 winner at Daytona.
And I'll tell you something about the way these seats are and the way you sit in these cars. It's not as physically demanding as it used to be because you're held in the seat better. It used to be you'd flop around in these cars so much, you'd get out, your back would be hurting, and you'd be twisted, your neck hurt. But these things are, you know, really keep you in the place, and it's comfortable to drive that way.
First pit stops of the night and came back just past lap 40. We could see some more green flag pit stops coming up soon. 76 laps complete. Greg Biffle continues to lead here at Daytona. notice while we were hearing from our sponsors, Dale Earnhardt Jr. appeared to have a little oomph and then once again kind of hit that wall and unable to make it happen over in that outside lane. And it appears that McMurray just can't get up to his rear bumper. Wally, am I right?
Well, it also appears a lot of these guys on the outside are ducking for air. It's almost like it's warmer up there for whatever reason because they're not staying in line like the guys on the bottom. And it could be McMurray is, you know, running a little bit hot, and because you'll see him go left to right looking for that air. When you go left to right on the car that you're following, see these guys how they're zigzagging? That slows that line down. You're faster if you can just stay in line perfectly in the wheel tracks of the guy in front of you. But when you start messing around and looking for air and stuff like that, it will slow that line down.
Looking big picture coming into tonight's race, Casey Kane running third in that inside lane. Had a great run last week. Went from a lap down to a runner-up finish at Kentucky. Doing a nice job this evening. And, of course, he's one of those drivers right in the middle of the wild card race. Let's get a report on Kevin Harvick. Matt Yoakum.
The RCR teammates on pit road. Kevin Harvick is in. They pulled a tear off the first segment of the race. He was fighting way too free. A slight adjustment helped that. Left side tires going on. Solid stop. And he's away. Paul Menard also in there topping him off. And they will go out together.
Jeff Burton also on pit road, and he actually had the side mirror on the left side, right by where the driver sits, come off earlier. They handed him a piece of tape on the last stop the car to lose for Burton. He said, we have to get our water temperature cooling working better, or we're not going to be able to compete tonight. All three RCR cars leave pit road, Adam.
So the scheduled service beginning, but the RCR guys coming in a bit sooner than the others. And now the leaders coming up on some lap traffic. That's Jeff Burton, who just made a pit stop, and the other RCR drivers. Terry Labonte in the silver car right behind him. Bobby Labonte, Dave Blaney, all those guys going a lap down as the leaders storm around. Well, that'll make you a little bit antsy in the seat when you come up on lap traffic, and now we've got three wide through the corner.
Let's go shake things up a little bit now, especially when you come up on cars like that. It breaks the whole pack up. So then all of a sudden the guys that were running with other guys are now forced to run with somebody else. And
First caution of the night, Sam Hornish Jr.
Looks like the tires come apart in that thing. The way it's ripped the whole side of the car off. It's like he's had a flat tire. It doesn't appear that he's been hit. Yeah.
Sam Hornish Jr. in this race tonight. For A.J. Allmendinger, it was announced around 6 o'clock this evening by NASCAR that he had been suspended for violating the sport's substance abuse policy. Hornish had to fly in from Charlotte late this afternoon. Here's the replay.
See at the back of the screen here, at the back of the pack, you see Hornish, and you see that thing wiggle right there. It's coming apart. He chases it across the racetrack. And there, when he gets to the corner, he spins around, does a good job of keeping it out of the wall, because obviously as it landed on the backstretch, as he came down the backstretch, it came apart, and it's amazing. You see the damage this thing did when a tire does come apart.
He got to slow down to about 160 before the tire came apart.
Exactly right. So. And it's still, look, it just rips the side all the way to the door, almost to the A post off the car.
This is our first caution of the night, and we told you the leaders were going around some guys to put them a lap down. The first one lap down when the caution came out, two-time champion Terry Labonte, who will receive the free pass. That's big.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a big break for Keselowski and Stewart, because they were half a lap down right before that caution came out.
Half a lap down, getting ready to go into green pit stop cycles again, which was going to compound their problem.
Yep.
Made it past halfway before we had our first caution of the night. Sam Hornish Jr. has been on pit road, and there are going to be a number of other guys that join him. Pit road is open. First 81 laps tonight, caution free. Here they come, Matt.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s guys up on the wall while they're going to go 4 tires at this juncture. Their teammate Jeff Gordon's only going to go 2. Now, Gordon, his car was a little bit overheating. Junior says his car is really good. No changes, Ralphie.
No changes down here with Ryan Newman either, Matt. They did have an extra man go over the wall to take the tear-off off, and they're also going to give him some water. Outside of that, they're good to go, Chris.
Casey Kane saying the 5, running a bit cooler, saying the car working better too. Not using the throttle as much, not going to take as much to fill the car up. Marty?
Greg Biffle, bottom right of your screen, 2 tires for him. No changes to the car. Matt Kenseth also 2 tires. Kenseth will win the race off pit road, and there's a problem on pit road, Adam.
Something we saw in February. Brad Keselowski and Ryan Newman getting together on pit road. This is a tight place when you put them all there together.
Yeah, that's ugly. Something happened there because you could see the rear of the 2 car.
Yeah, and a lot of it depends. When these guys are coming in late, we'll take a look. But I bet somebody was coming in while somebody was going out and got clobbered.
That's Casey Kane in the 5 car.
Oh, Gordon got into Newman and turned him into the 5 car.
Watch this. Oh, that's
my
dangerous.
gosh.
Very dangerous. And one of the 2 cars' crewmen did go down, but he appeared to get up okay.
And it's a good thing they were on the left side already, or that could have been a ton worse.
Just barely clips Newman. And as you see it, it sends him across. And look at those officials.
Maybe they were on the right side. They got out of the way.
Yeah, they did a great job there. Yeah. And you see the tire changer there on the ground. Those guys are very blessed.
Pit road is a dangerous place. And you see why right here. First caution of the night at Daytona. We'll reset the field when we return. We've just passed 9 o'clock in the East on this holiday weekend. NASCAR on TNT back at Daytona International Speedway for coverage of the Coke Zero 400, powered by Coca-Cola. And this evening, our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, proudly supporting our military for 100 years. Show your support for our troops at Goodyear.com. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Took us 81 laps. Finally, we have a caution. Everyone has come down pit road. And let's go back to the situation in the pits a moment ago and listen to what Jeff Gordon had to say.
I was just getting ready to ask you if we were clear to the outside there, because I didn't know. And so that 39 just nailed us in the left rear, probably going to have to come back in.
Yeah, you can see he's got damage on the left rear. They'll bang that out. But I think Keselowski's got a lot more. Yeah, you see, he just got clipped. I just want to mention, the 2 is sitting there. He got himself in this position to begin with because they were that half a lap down. Yes. And they were sitting there. They would have been gone if they were with the pack already. So that's just one of those things where you drop back and you try to play it safe. Sometimes it comes back to bite you.
It comes back to bite you. And I want to say something. Jeff explained that perfectly. And as we saw on the replay there, Jeff was just getting ready to ask, am I clear to the outside lane? So Jeff was still in that middle lane. So he had the 29 and the 5 kind of pinched down as he came out. Jeff wasn't sure and had not been told that the outside lane was open. If Jeff had moved out to the outside lane, it would open that up. But I'm going to give a huge shout out to these guys on pit road. I think we criticize them a lot of times, or they take a lot of criticism when they have slow pit stops. But I'm going to tell you what, they put their lives in these drivers' hands when they go out there, and there are a lot of brave guys on pit road.
Drivers and teams are joining Goodyear to help support our troops. Let's find out more.
Teammates work together on this one.
I think they will, yeah. Kenseth elected the outside lane at the start as the pole sitter. Here he goes inside, and I'm guessing he's going to let Biffle pull down in front of him if he can.
Biffle didn't get a very good restart on that deal. I mean,
no,
they got other teammates there.
Teammate right behind him.
Here we go. He'll slide in there on the second spot. Maybe. Clear low, clear low.
Edwards doing everything he can to let Biffle in line. Kenseth going to slide up there and pick him up. Oh, that's a little scary.
Yeah, they got it done, though, I think.
Well, the 17 right now on point, but behind him, not his wingman, Greg Biffle, it's Jeff Gordon. And then you got Kyle Busch, also the meat in the sandwich when you look at the Roush Fenway cars. 33 cars on the lead lap here at Daytona as we work the 87th of 160 laps. Jeff Gordon damaged, not hurting his car right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I was gonna ask Larry about that. I think where the damage is on the left rear, Larry, I don't think that's going to hurt him. I wouldn't be surprised if it helps him a little bit the way that thing is. But if it was behind the rear tire, I think it would probably be a lot worse.
Well, I think one thing that put Jeff Gordon's mind at ease, that there's a lot of reasons that having a teammate pays off. Under that caution, he pulled up beside Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 car. Dale Earnhardt Jr. gave a thumbs up and told his crew to tell Jeff and Alan Gustafson everything looks good, shouldn't be no problem.
And you saw as a part of our wide open coverage, Jeff Gordon started the race 18th in the standings. He's 13th as they run right now. That could be a moot point, though, because he needs a race victory, and he's quite capable here at Daytona. 6 times he's gone to victory lane at this facility.
Just looking in the middle of the pack there, I see that 14 car sitting about 15th or 16th when he was long ways back before that caution.
And he was another one in the same situation as you pointed out with Brad Keselowski. On board here with Smoke. He's won 3 of the last 7 400-milers in the summer at Daytona. Haven't talked a lot about Eric Almirola tonight in the 43, running the Air Force colors this weekend. Another potential sleeper.
There you got the telemetry down there with Tony. See if he hits 200 down here going into turn 3. The green light is what you want to look at as the throttle. And you pretty much all the way around here on the throttle. You drag the brake a little bit if you have to.
It's Martin Truex Jr. leading that outside lane around. Different look for him this weekend. So we go back on board with Tony Stewart.
Yeah, they're taking a look. You just look at the throttle, and then there's actually a box underneath the throttle. That's the brake. If that turns red, then you know he's laying on the brake. But these guys have got a pretty good gap in between each other. So you just you'll roll out of the throttle more than you drag the brake in this instance. See, it's just coming out of the throttle just a little bit, which just tells you he's got a lot more.
That's
when
right,
he needs
because this is a place you can run wide open.
Yeah.
But they're having to do that to monitor and modulate that temperature.
Kurt Busch bullying it up through the middle.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, Kurt Busch pulled out of the bottom lane, went to the middle, and said, "To heck with this. Let's go make it happen."
See how that car's
and
moving around?
There
There he
we got
goes.
trouble. Trevor Bayne into the wall. Kurt Busch trying to save it.
And you see these guys spinning behind. It's because they check up and somebody else doesn't check up. But everyone else been hit.
That's Bobby Labonte in the 47 who went for a ride.
I told you, when you get in the middle of things, they waddle like Porky Pig over there. That's exactly what that thing did. And when he made the move off here, I mean, he was like, all right, I've had enough. I'm coming. And, man, he forced his way in the middle.
You said earlier, drivers get anxious after a while. Second caution of the night. Let's look at it one more time.
Yeah, we'll take. Okay, here he is off of Ford. Then all of a sudden you'll see he just jumps in the middle. Now, watch him when he goes into 1 and 2, and watch how the car starts to float. And that's a problem with these things. When you get there, you're okay right here. But when you get in the corner, all of a sudden you lose a lot of downforce on these cars. Not to mention, I mean, he got right in the middle of those guys, he just lost the front of the car and slid up, and he caught Trevor Bayne.
We're lucky it wasn't bigger than what it was, because he's right in the middle of the group.
And watch this. That hole kind of closes up between the 43 and the 21. He snatches it.
Yeah, he turned off the 21, and that's what got him sideways.
Yes. As you watch it from this angle, you can see the 51 of Kurt Busch. He comes in, and we'll go on around this way. But you can't see. You see the thing already sideways. He goes up. They're really lucky that all these guys back here didn't get more into it. You see the 42 clip the 11 of Denny Hamlin. Denny did a great job.
Yeah, there wasn't any room to go 3 wide in that spot right there. That was pushing your luck. But those guys behind did an excellent job. Was that Denny Hamlin down there?
Yeah. The 11
he did a really nice
reminded me
job.
of Kyle Busch in the Bud Shootout, his teammate. It's right on board with Trevor Bayne here.
Yeah, this is a great shot. Watch the 51. He gets down underneath him. Actually got Trevor a little bit loose.
Yeah.
But that was just asking for a lot right there, trying to go in the middle right there.
Yeah, right there, and at that point in time, that was asking for a lot.
Brad Keselowski, who received damage under caution a little while ago, has made a couple of pit stops. There goes Kurt Busch. You can see the damage there. Can't overemphasize how aero sensitive these race cars are. You get a little damage like that, going to make it a big uphill climb the rest of the evening. Now a few others going to come down the pit lane and make stops at lap 92, Ralph.
Well, the 48 car has been a pretty solid race car all night long. The biggest thing he wants to do, Marty, is talk to Jack and ask about the brakes when they get back to Concord. Marty.
Well, the theory here for Tony Stewart will be right side tires. They'll pack it full of fuel. Steve Addington told Tony that on our next stop, we can get 1 can and make it the rest of the way. That's why they're stopping now, Chris.
Well, still watching the right front fender on the 5-car. See if it's rubbing on that right front. Now they're cracking the hood. Right before Casey Kane came in, he said water temp and water pressure were jumping all over the place. They're going to add some water on the 5. Matt?
Not everyone came down pit road under our second caution of the night. Among those staying out, Matt Kenseth, Jeff Gordon, Kyle Busch, Greg Biffle, and Carl Edwards. They're the top 5 with 92 complete at Daytona. For the 6th consecutive year, NASCAR on TNT wide open at Daytona. It's the Coke Zero 400 powered by Coca-Cola. Closing on 100 laps complete, Matt Kenseth is the race leader. And as we continue under caution, we say thank you to the sponsors that bring you wide open coverage like Ram Trucks, Guts, Glory, Ram. We continue under caution, our second of the night. Why are we under caution? Let's look back at what happened coming off the corner.
And you see, Wally explained it earlier. You see Kurt Busch, all of a sudden he's like, okay, I'm tired of riding here. I'm going to make something happen. And he creates that middle lane coming through the trial. As we get down to turn 1, he sees that opening right there. You see, he puts himself in position. And just like Wally says, you lose that air. And the car goes in. You see him touch the left rear of the 43 up into that. There's another angle that we have of this. And the thing is, when you see these guys wreck in front of you, even though these guys aren't bump drafting and they aren't running like that anymore, there's multiple wrecks that happen here. We see the 43, the 51, and the 21 get together. Then, in another shot, we see the 42 all but spin Denny Hamlin down across the flat. And then, as you see these guys right here, these guys get together, and you see them go up. As they come around, right here, you see the 42 into the 11, sends 11 down across the flat. Right back out of this shot a little bit, there's the 47, and those guys, they check up, all run into each other, and they're up dragging against the wall. So that one little incident from Kurt sticking his nose in that one hole where he thought it was affects probably 7 or 8, maybe 10 race cars and affects their night.
3 wrecks, that 2 didn't happen.
Two didn't happen, exactly.
And the save of the night right now goes to Denny Hamlin, Matt.
and his concern early on after he saw him go down and hit the apron and the sea of sparks from the tailpipes, he told Darian Grubb, you're going to have to check the splitter. I hit that, as well as possibly some damage to the left rear corner. They looked at it from our various camera angles as well as from the spotter stand with binoculars. They feel like at this juncture the car is okay. They don't want to take a chance and give up track position to pit, so he's going to stay out, restart in 10th.
You can see the damage to the left rear, and that's probably from the banking. From when he got turned sideways and he got on the got on the apron, it hits. But the splitter is the problem. This right up here, that splitter.
That looked good.
Thanks. You have to have that thing right down on the racetrack when you're at speed, and that's what really creates the stick on these race cars. And when you damage that, if you start getting air underneath that splitter, then the car won't turn, and you'll go right to the back. So look pretty good right there, though.
And let's not forget, Denny Hamlin, sore back, didn't practice the car on Friday. First time he got in it this weekend for 2 laps of qualifying yesterday. Put the green flag in the air as we complete lap 95. Front row, Matt Kenseth, Jeff Gordon, Kyle Busch, Greg Biffle on row 2. And Kenseth has taken the outside lane. That's good for him because it puts his old buddy right behind him, Greg Biffle. Green flag back in the air in the Coke Zero 400.
That'll be interesting to see if they can clear and get down to the bottom, because trust me, they want to get back to the bottom. They don't want to stay on the high side. And everybody bailed on them, too.
Yeah, and they're the only 2 guys that have come from the outside and got around those guys. But I'm going to tell you, they've got Jeff, and Jeff's been up in there right in the mix, and you've got Kyle Busch, who's been up there right in the
what's that all about?
There was a little contact there. Saw some smoke.
Holy cow, that was a lot of contact. He looks like he drove up and did it, just turned up there.
Yeah, it looked like he went up there to side, but which obviously left Jeff hanging out there, and now you've got the 16 and the 17 of Matt Kenseth exactly where they want to be.
The third of the Roush Fenway organization, Carl Edwards, now the point man in that outside lane. Dale Earnhardt Jr. right behind him.
That was almost like a you're clear kind of a move, and he wasn't.
2 drivers out front have combined to lead 89 laps tonight. And how about Carl Edwards making it happen in the outside lane? Put the 99 on point, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. liking it coming from behind, but he can't make it happen.
Yeah, he got almost out there a little bit too far out front. He didn't have the help when he needed it. It wasn't close enough.
Yeah, he kind of lost Junior as he made his move.
Yeah, he got a good push, it seemed like, up there, but he couldn't do anything with it. Man, that bottom is strong, though. And that's frustrating when you're on the outside, because you can't do anything.
No.
You know, you're just riding and you're trying to side draft up these guys. You're looking in your mirror saying, come on, push, push, push. The guy behind you is pushing as hard as he can.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we see the 17 and the 16 in first and second, and we see Carl on the outside with the 88 behind him. We almost saw this scenario 30 or 40 laps ago, and that outside line went backwards.
From wide open race coverage to VIP experiences, Coke Zero doesn't settle for just watching the race. Coke Zero helps you enjoy everything about race day. And congratulations to Patricia. You are an at-track winner in the Lap Zero promotion. For your chance to win a Coke Zero Lap, text TASTE to 26739 or visit CokeZeroLap.com. Let's send it now down to Matt Yoakum.
And Jeff Gordon on the bottom, third in line in the 24 machine. Now, it's been 18 restrictor plate races since his last win, which was October of 2007 at Talladega. We told you earlier that this is when Gordon really needs to make his push to try to lock down one of those wild card spots. The only way he's going to be able to do it, Ralph, by starting with some big wins, especially right here at Daytona.
Well, Matt, right behind him is Kyle Busch, another one of those guys fighting for a wild card position. He's had a really good race car tonight. Just took 4 tires and fuel that last round of pit stops. His biggest issue has been the radio. Turns out it was the spotter's headset that was causing them the problem. They did get it fixed, Chris.
Well, the 51 had to come to pit lane multiple times to try and get that car fixed. They fixed the bodywork. They tried to get the camber and the toe settings back to pre-race conditions, but the big problem with that car is an upper A arm is bent. The car wandering all over the racetrack. Kurt not able to keep up with the pack. Marty?
Well, Chris, it's been an interesting week for Carl Edwards after the mistake on pit road, not coming in under caution, staying out, and having to pit late at Kentucky when they had a top 5 car. What he called a hastily organized meeting came together this week. He told me the focus for the team has really changed. He said the next 9 weeks we have to have no mistakes, and we have to act like a championship team to put ourselves into the chase. He told me tonight we'd love a win, but we can't afford a 30th place finish or worse, Larry Mack.
Marty, I've been watching our reigning champion, Tony Stewart, in that 14 car. Remember, qualified second yesterday, but in post-qualifying inspection, his time was disallowed. He started at the rear of the field. I think Wally and Kyle are well documented. Tony elected to stay at the back, but until that caution came on lap 81, he had basically lost the draft. I think Smoke has decided being up front, near the front, as he cracked the top 10 may be the best place to be.
And he's the only driver right now in the top 10, Larry, that hit it at lap 92. Everybody else stayed out under that cycle of pit stops under caution.
Yeah, this is another good shot. I've been watching it. I don't see it now, but he had one of his gauges was turning red quite a bit. But it looks like he's got it cooled off now. But yeah, he looks like he's got a very strong car. It looks like the 18's awfully strong too. These 2 cars look like they're pretty anxious to get something done.
And you can continue to watch the progress of Tony Stewart as we thank our sponsors for wide open coverage on TNT. 103 of 160 laps in the books.
Yeah, as we went to that branded content there, I want you to notice that the 99 car, who had been being pushed by Dale Earnhardt Jr., finally found an opening and got in between the 24 car of Jeff Gordon and the 18 car of Kyle Busch. Now, at the same time, now the 88 car is leading that outside line. And granted, he's not made any progress on the leader, but I want you to something to pay attention to. He's not lost anything on the leader. They've not just drove away from him. He's got the 14 car of Tony Stewart right there behind him. That 88 car is pretty fast right now.
And when you look at success at restrictor plate tracks, 88, 14, both seem to find their way to the front.
You know, he was pushing the 99 car of Carl Edwards, and there just got to be enough of a gap right before we went to commercial there that the 99 jumped down and left him hung out. Now you see, that's Tony getting right up next to him.
You know, earlier we're talking about how he was lifting the throttle. We said he's got a lot more race car left. He's showing what he's got right now. When you could push the 88 or push anybody past 3 or 4 cars going down the back straightaway, you've got a lot of race cars.
Yeah, and then Tony has to get off of him so Tony's car doesn't overheat. But you saw how much room they made up right there. The 88 car goes from being 5th or 6th in line with the 14, and now the 14 will try to run up and catch back up to him.
One thing I'm noticing also, it's becoming 3 lanes again.
Yes.
A lot of these guys, you're seeing some guys in the back using that real high lane as well. So it could get awfully busy up here in a minute.
Can the 14 and 88 make their way to the front in the outside lane? You can continue to watch our wide open coverage, brought to you in part by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Marcos Ambrose probably noticed that while we were listening to a word from Geico, trying to make it happen in a 3rd groove up there, Wally.
Yeah, and that's when things start getting pretty hairy out there. Is when you've got those 3 grooves like that, you're on a little bit older tires, and these cars are moving around looking for air. That's when you start seeing a little bit of contact. So you could tell we're getting closer and closer. I mean, we got 50 laps to go, but everybody's a little bit, they want to get to the front a little bit more now than they did earlier in the race. So
Kurt Busch, involved in an accident, has taken his car to the garage. Brad Keselowski had problems on pit road earlier, Larry, but they're doing a nice job in the top 15.
Yeah, and they're actually making a 3rd groove work. He's getting a push by David Rudiman in that 10 car, and Brad Keselowski actually was one of about a dozen or so drivers that made a pit stop on that last caution about lap 92 or 93. But the scenario, the drivers that stayed out, and there's about 12 to 14 of them, they're going to have to stop here in the next 10 or 12 laps, but every driver will have to make at least one more green flag pit stop. You don't want a mistake on that stop because it might be your last one.
The only drivers in the top 10 right now, Larry, that came down under that last caution at lap 92, Tony Stewart, we documented earlier, is 7th, and Ambrose, who is 10th. And that will continue to ebb and flow as we complete laps.
Brad's making that really high groove work a little bit. I mean, he's just going where they're not right now. But he, not so much in the corners, but when he gets down and when he gets on the straightaways, he's making up some ground. You look right here. I mean, he just goes past Casey Kane, making a pretty big run. I can't tell who that is, if that's Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, it looks like Jimmy. Jimmy kind of pulled over to kind of say, okay, if you come this way, I'm going to jump out in front of you.
Hey, he lost it all in the corner.
Been a little bit of a tough night for Trevor Bayne.
Boy, he looks awfully
right
loose.
now.
Sorry, Adam, but boy, that time he looked like he had his hands full going through the corner.
Yeah, and he's got that right rear torn up on the 2 car, you know, from as far as side force. So I bet that wrinkled quarter panel and the way that thing was driven down on that right rear corner can do 2 things for you. If you knock that right rear corner down, that spoiler's not in the air anymore, so you're going to haul the
And that's why he's going. That's exactly what he's doing.
Haul the down the straightaway.
Yeah.
But when you get to the corner, you're going to take a double handful and try to get that thing turned.
TNT's wide open coverage brought to you in part by Geico. To see how much you could save, call Geico at 1-800-947-AUTO or go to geico.com. Dale Earnhardt Jr. probably saw it. Outside lane, they continue to work it, and inside of him, Joe Gibbs Racing teammates Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch working together. Let's listen to their radio.
The 11 not staying with me is really hurt. letting people down.
I'm not sure what he really meant by that. But,
yeah.
You know, again, you know, if he's talking about distance in between the two cars, I mean, I think all these guys have to because they're running so hot right now.
That's right, and I don't understand what he means by not staying with him. I mean, Denny's got a car length in between him, and he's modulating that one car length to a half car length back to a car length. But I mean, there's nowhere for these guys to go.
He goes up the middle.
Yeah,
he's had enough.
Yeah. But there was nowhere for Denny to go.
Right.
I mean, Denny was doing everything he could to be behind Kyle and help him a little bit.
The middle used to be a big problem at Daytona. We'll see how it pays off here for Denny Hamlin as he shuffles out of line. What's up, Matt?
And Denny making a good move around Dale Earnhardt Jr. now powering to the outside. After the first run, he told Darian Grubb, you are going to have to tighten up my race car. Absolutely way too free to run up in the middle of the pack. That was another reason why he dropped back. And KP and Wally, you talked about that all weekend. You've got to have your car at a certain balance because when you get back, you lose so much air on that rear spoiler.
Yeah, the further you're up in the front of this group, the better your car's handling. There's no doubt about it. The best cars that'll handle right now are the guys that are running single file on the bottom.
Exactly, and all that move that Denny just did, all that he found out about that was, A, the middle's not going to work for me right now. I lose a position, and it screwed up Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the 14 car of Tony, who had been just barely working that outside, not really losing anything. But you see the 88 and the 14, they're all the way back here in the outside line now, 4 or 5 deep.
But also it gets to the point where we were talking about earlier where we're getting towards the race where you just start taking.
Yes.
You're not really starting to worry about anybody else. You're starting to get what you can get. You heck with everybody else.
That's right. You get what you can get, and at the same time, you're learning from every move you make.
Yeah.
Denny just learned, I can't pull out and go around these guys. Nobody's going to help me, and I can't get help. Even late in the race, it's not going to work.
Don't think he's real concerned about screwing up Dale Earnhardt Jr.
No, not really. Not really.
Right in the middle of that mess, Marcos Ambrose. Marty?
Yeah, Adam, talking about a guy taking all he can get. Started in the back tonight. That unapproved change for Ambrose earlier was actually the bracket that holds the window net in that attached it to the roof line. It broke. They had to weld a new piece in and then had to roll it back out on the line. So that's what happened with Ambrose. Has made his way from the back to the front. And Wally, he's doing all this with a transmission vibration. They checked it earlier. They said not much we can do with it. He's living with it, still making his way to the front. Very impressive night for Marcos Ambrose.
116 laps complete. Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle have led 109. Now for a few words from Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Casey Kane about a special program at Goodyear.
I think one thing, if you're anybody else in this group, you got to start figuring how you're going to separate the 17 and the 16. Because if you don't, it's going to be really hard to beat these guys at the end of the day.
And I wonder if you don't work with the 99 at some point. He's the team car. Perhaps he's the wild card in this mix that could go up and make it happen.
Well, you know he's going to bail on you at the end if those other two guys are up there. I just think you got to figure a way how you can break these guys up.
Marty, it's all about communication in this race.
Absolutely, and part of them working together is the crew chiefs also working together on pit road. We've seen Matt Kenseth and Greg Biffle pit together every time. There you see Matt Pusha on the left, Greg Biffle's crew chief, and Jimmy Finning, Matt Kenseth's crew chief, on the right, talking about when they'll pit. Not only are they talking about when they'll pit, what adjustments are you going to make, what is your plan for tires. They're planning everything together, trying to stay together. Wally, you know that's key. If you're going to work with someone on the racetrack, you also have to work with them on pit road, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, because, and it's been actually pretty incredible, Marty, that they've been able to make these pit stops and they wind up together every time when the green flag, falls. So, yeah, these guys are very, very strong, obviously, running together. So they're going to do everything they can to try to stay that way when they leave pit lane as well.
Jimmy Finning, no stranger to success at Daytona. 3 wins here. He and Matt hooked up for victory in the 500 in February, and prior to that, the last time, Bobby Allison, 1987.
And this last pit stop is really going to be very, very important for these guys. I mean, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the pit crews down there to make this right.
Hey, guys, I just think right now you saw Matt Fuchsia and Jimmy Finning starting to talk there. I don't think you're going to see a lot of movement till we get through this last set of green flag pit stops. But what you have to remember, drivers hooked together, it's a little bit like martinis. One's not enough, and three's too many.
and Larry, we have seen this race come down to fuel mileage, but it would appear at this stage everybody going to be in their window after they make this next cycle of stops. TNT's wide open coverage brought to you in part by Ram Trucks, Guts, Glory, Ram. Last time race leader Matt Kenseth came down pit road, lap 82. We're at lap 121 right now, actually working lap 122, so it won't be long before he and others have to come down the pit lane. Tell you, Denny Hamlin has not really lost much ground since he moved up to that outside lane.
Now you see he gets a good run, like off a 2 there. He got a good run, but McMurray was too far back in order to help him down the back straightaway on the draft. And it seems like it's hard for these guys to just lock in. It's like earlier we saw somebody give another guy a shot, and he got a great shot, and he passed 3 or 4 cars, but the car wasn't behind him to stay there to help pull it off on, draft-wise. So you're just not making any ground on that inside lane.
No, not making any ground. And the thing is, as we look at those first 4 cars, back to the 99, first 5 or 6 cars, back to Marcus Ambrose, these guys are being incredibly patient. I mean, they're just there. They're not getting off the bumper from the car in front of them. They're not weaving to the left, weaving to the right. They're just there. Everybody will jump out in that outside lane back about 7th, 8th, or 9th, and they're trying to make something happen, but they're not gaining on anybody.
Little dicey here as they go around the lap car. Damaged machine of Landon Castle. I'm going to give a call to your man once again. Bill Elliott hanging tough. Debut race for Turner Motorsports. They compete in the Truck Series and the Nationwide Series. Never been at the Sprint Cup level. And, oh, Mr. Elliott making it happen for him here this evening. He gets scored right now in the 14th position.
Who was that got loose? Man, he was the 3rd car in that outside lane.
Casey Kane, maybe?
That thing got a big wiggle. Was that Tony? No, that was Casey Kane. You're right. Yeah.
Ambrose doing a nice job hanging at the front.
Hey, guys, I think you may see some drivers stretch it a little further on this run right here. Even though we're within the fuel window, I think
we got trouble, Larry.
They're coming to the tri-oval. A number of cars involved. Still spinning. Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon on the grass, Regan Smith, Michael Waltrip back up through the groove, and there's Bill Elliott as well.
Yeah, and Jeff Gordon and those guys were up in the 4th, 5th, and 6th positions. So this thing, obviously, it may have started back a little bit, but it carried its way all the way to the front.
Jimmy Johnson completed 1 lap in the 500.
And
better in that category tonight, but similar situation to what we saw then.
Yeah, Jimmy got turned into the outside wall and hit head-on in the 500, and here he's got turned into the inside wall coming out of turn 4 here, and it's a softer, it's a soft wall, it's a softer barrier, so that's a plus, but still, that was a hard hit.
But these guys obviously, I think, did they hit pit lane before the flag came out?
That may be why the caution was out.
Sure
these guys were probably slowing down, and then we just get a chain reaction. It'll be interesting to see because we saw the 16 on pit road. There's no way that the 24 wrecked and the 16 got it on pit road in time.
Greg Biffle was on pit road, Marty.
Well, that's exactly the plan. Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth were coming to pit road at the time that the accident happened. They were both slowing down to come to pit road. Now, here's the interesting thing. Matt Kenseth said that he felt like pit road was closed. He went past his pit box. Greg Biffle did stop in his pit box. He took on 4 tires and fuel. We'll see if it was indeed closed and if there's a penalty coming for Greg Biffle.
See that, and that's what we're talking about. Now they're separated, and that changes everything.
That changes.
From high above, we look at what happened.
See, the 24 car is third in line right here, but you see him slowing down to come in pit road. Now he slows down.
Yeah, Johnson got tagged.
Is it Martin Truex Jr. maybe?
I couldn't tell, but he got tagged early though. I mean,
look at the 24 right here. The 24 is coming down pit road and gets wrecked. They run into him from the back right there, and you see these guys already on pit road. So it's really going to be interesting to see when the light comes on.
Watch how hard Jimmie Johnson hits this inside wall. I'm telling you what, those soft walls or whatever you want to call them, those things are incredible.
And we've not always had Safer Barry on the inside.
I've hit walls on the inside when they weren't there. I'll tell you what, it's a shot.
Watch his tires.
Wow, when it picks up the rear wheels off the ground, that's a hit.
Jimmie Johnson, 3 restrictor plate races this year, and it appears he will get his 3rd DNF here tonight.
I want to see how violent it is when you hit a wall at Daytona at a $150. And he's already talking about pitting right here.
See, he gets hit.
Watch his hands. Yeah, he rode it all the way in the wall.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Who's the idiot?
On board here with Greg Biffle.
Now watch Jeff Gordon, like Kyle was saying. Gordon's just, is that Gordon there? Minding his own business. Boom, when he gets nailed by Bill Elliott.
Just minding his own business. Third place car. Third place car coming down pit road and gets taken out. That's when your luck is bad.
Yeah,
that's when your luck is bad.
And he's had it all year.
Look at the green light. We're still under green. See when the caution comes out. Yeah, now, there you go. You see the start-finish line. There it is, right there.
You see the light on the left is the light we have to look for.
Yeah.
The flashing red light right here. This is the light we have to look for, is the flashing red light on the left. That's a pit road light, as far as I know. And I'm going to say that right now. Now, I may be wrong, but that is pit road closed.
No, that's absolutely.
That's pit road either open or closed. Now, the problem is these guys had already committed to pit road. That's why. So that's why we had the accident in the first place. So NASCAR is going to have to go back, look at that tape, and make that call.
Okay, he here.
I watch 48, you slide, check up, you're wrecking, check up, bud. Watch here, one inside, watch him.
Yeah, there's nothing Michael could have done on that. There's nowhere he could have gone on that. That car came back in front of him.
Yes.
That's on board with Michael Waltrip. Making his 2nd consecutive start in that 55 car. Not as much damage as I would have thought on the front end based on how much contact there was there.
Yeah, that might. Yeah, I mean, the splitter's got quite a bit of damage. See how this front of the splitter is kicked up? That's what you don't want here.
Well, the pits are open now. And this is going to be perhaps the event that helps shape the rest of this race, because the two powerhouses most likely going to be broken up when we get ready for the restart. And I'm talking about Matt Kenseth and Greg Biffle. They've dominated tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what NASCAR makes a ruling on that, on where those guys, because those guys were well off the racetrack when the light come on. I mean, they were going to have a tough time swinging back onto the racetrack at that speed. They were really going to have a tough time. So NASCAR may give them the benefit of the doubt, and really should.
Yeah, you almost have to on that.
At lap 127, Matt.
And Denny Hamlin will bring the 11 car down pit road in the 2nd position. And Darian Grubb has told him, we are going to pack the fuel cell full of fuel. Go on my word, not when the jack drops. Ralph.
Same thing here, Matt. 2 tires on the right side. Don't go till I go, because they want to pack this thing full of fuel. The tires are on the right side. Now he says go. Chris.
Kasey Kahne was outside the top 20 after the contact with the 39 and the 24. He's worked his way up into the top 10. That car working very good. Matt, Marty.
Well, now we're going to see how good Matt Kenseth's car really is. That we went from 1st to 23rd after coming down pit road under that caution. He will take on 4 tires since they're already in the back. Pack it full of fuel, no changes. Clearly the best car all night long. Has some work to do, Adam.
Yes, he does. And Tony Stewart had his hands full coming off pit road a moment ago. We'll reset the field in a moment. First, we hear from our sponsors. It's wide open coverage tonight on TNT. Things starting to get interesting down the stretch at Daytona. Just over 30 laps to go. We'll get you ready for it when we return. .128 of 160 laps complete in the Coke Zero 400 at Daytona, powered by Coca-Cola. NASCAR on TNT. I'm bringing you round 18 in 2012 for the Sprint Cup Series. We're under caution for the third time tonight. And there's a pretty good discussion going on down on pit road between the 16 team and NASCAR based on when did Greg Biffle get onto pit road and should he have been allowed to come down, or was it closed?
Well, if you look at it right on the line right now, and basically they pretty much have committed themselves. You see the light right over here is still green. So they peeled off the racetrack. They've already slowed down. They're already going through the gears. I would have to say that, you know what, you're pretty much committed. Like you said, Kyle, yes. It's pretty hard to come back up on the racetrack at this point.
Yeah. Guys, the bottom line is, though, we've been through this before. There's the commitment cone there, and it lines up with those lights. And if that light's red and you're not to that commitment cone, you're entering pit road too early. He could have went down pit road as long as he didn't stop and make a pit stop.
Exactly, and that's what the 17 did. The 17 just went through and never made a stop. The 16 did stop and have decided to challenge it. And I understand. I give NASCAR credit. I give NASCAR credit for saying, okay, that's a rule and we've got to live by it, come heck or high water. But we understand that you guys did commit.
And there is the commitment cone that we were talking about.
Yeah, and what we're saying is here's the light. Here's the light that tells you whether you can come down pit road or not. When you get in this zone right here, like we saw some of these cars do, in this zone, it's hard to make that corner and get back out on the racetrack. And that's what I was saying.
Here.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is by the time they got to this point and had committed, we saw Jeff Gordon get knocked over into this area of the racetrack. So I mean, there was so much stuff happening at one time. But if you just go by your rule, and that's what NASCAR is doing, is going by their rule, then they're right.
16 car going to fight their case, probably going to lose it. In fact, you see him going back here. But Matt Kenseth came down once pit road was open. Both those guys have 4 tires. In a way, it's worked out. They work better together than anybody, and now they'll be together. If not, they've been split up and been very difficult for them to find themselves in the draft. And there's Matt Pucia, the crew chief. It's hard to believe. It was about a year ago that Matt Pucia and Greg Biffle got together as a driver crew chief combination. Similar backgrounds at Roush Fenway Racing, and they've made it work. Larry?
Talking about that pin in the hand grenade, I think we may be close.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a little bit. They can get to the front. There's no doubt about it. There's, 30 laps to go.
Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch on the front row for the restart. 30 laps remaining. How about Brad Keselowski? Those problems earlier on pit road, whip damage, running in the top 5. Let's go down to Ralph Shaheen.
Well, Jimmy Johnson is out of the care center. He's talking things over with crew chief Jack. Now, Stu, that was a hard hit. Are you okay?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I mean, my angle at the wall was pretty forgiving, to be honest with you. So I prepared for the worst. I'm sure the in-car had a nice, cool shot of me buckling down ready for impact, but wasn't all that bad. The car, unfortunately, is destroyed. But, we're just not having the best of luck on these plate tracks. It's unfortunate.
Is that all about getting to pit road?
Yeah, that was. I'd waved coming down the back straightaway and through 3 and 4, motioning that I was coming to pit road. As soon as I checked up to hit the brakes, somebody got me from behind, and around I went.
Next up for Jimmy, a triathlon tomorrow in Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, man, I'm telling you what. They're itching for a wreck right here.
Yes, they are. Saw Eric Almirola getting a little bit out of shape. Right in front of him, Paul Menard, drafting with Clint Boyer. Keep watching as we thank our sponsor, #NASCAR. Once you hear it first and see it instantly from insiders, it's twitter.com/#NASCAR.
Tell you one thing, that 14 car, you're not going to see him get a foot off that yellow line for the rest of the race.
Tony Stewart qualified second yesterday. His time was disallowed. He had to start 42nd. He's been very patient tonight. And here we are, closing on the end, and the man who has won this race 3 of the last 7 years, dragging him around.
And he's got a good car. We saw that when he was pushing his way up through the front.
Yeah, we saw him running behind Dale Jr. And they were good. They were good together. They could maintain on the outside, and you just knew if the 88 of Dale Jr. or Tony got to that inside and were anywhere near the front, they were going to be tough to get around.
On board with Dale Jr., that's Paul Menard popping him from behind as Ryan Newman tries to make some gains in the outside lane.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting because we're on board with Dale Jr. We've got Tony leading the thing. Then we got 2 Gibbs cars, and then you've got 2 Hendrick cars.
This is the frustrating part of the race because you can't go anywhere.
Can't go anywhere.
You know, if you came out in the top 5 or 6 after the pit stops, you're in good shape. But if you're in the back, you can't go anywhere.
You can't go anywhere. And these top 5 or 6, just like we saw in the last run, they don't want to go anywhere. They just want to be able to bide their time and maintain there.
How about the RCR bunch tonight, Larry?
Well, I think they know the clock is ticking. When they dropped the green flag on this race, Paul Menard, Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton dropped to the back. And remember, they got trapped a lap down on that first caution when it came out at lap 81, and they took the wave around. And here they are now running 7th, 12th, and 17th. I think they know the end is near.
And it's hard to believe, Larry, but there's not a Roush Fenway car inside the top 10 at this stage. TNT's wide open coverage brought to you in part by #NASCAR on Twitter.com.
Keeping an eye on Matt in that 17 car, as strong as his car was most of the race, he got up, I think he's up to 10th or 11th right now already. But it's going to be interesting to see if he can get back to the front without Biffle.
And Biffle, by the way, is scored in the 17th position. They got split up on a cycle of stops under caution a little bit ago. And outside of that, they have absolutely dominated this race tonight. Let's get a thought from all of our pit reporters as we go down the stretch. We start with Marty Snyder.
Adam Tony Stewart, so impressive tonight. He's been working that high line for most of the evening. Finally where he wants to be, on the bottom, and I agree with Wally. I don't think he's going to come off that yellow line for the rest of the night. For the first time all evening long, they made a chassis adjustment to this 14 on the last stop. Stewart said, I'm a little too loose coming off the corners. If you can help me there, it would be great. And he went down half around on the track bar, Ralph.
Well, Kyle Busch is another one of those bottom feeders hanging on that yellow line. He has had a great night in that number 18. No problems with the car outside of that radio issue at the very beginning of the night. They put right side tires on this last pit stop. The only other thing, he asked the crew to take a look at the right front tire. It's good, Chris. He's hammered down.
Ralph, Casey Kane sitting 4th right now. He had a wild first half of this race. He had that contact early on in pit lane, right damage to the right front fender, and then that car overheating. They had to add water to it. But in the second half of this race, he said he's having a much easier time maintaining the temperature in the 5, and it is running strong. Matt?
Clint Bowyer in the 15 car. No sleeper when it comes to restrictor plate racing. 2 wins in the last plate races. Now, before the last restart, he told Ty Norris, his spotter, be concise, be clear, and be quick. And then once the restart took place, Larry Mack, he told Ty Norris, keep me in whatever the longest lane is on the outside. I know we're going to see 3 wide racing develop.
You know, the driver I've been watching, he's right there in the middle of that one car, Jamie McMurray. Started back in the 26th position. He has been in the top 10 all night long, has 2 wins here at Daytona. This is one of the first races, though, at a restrictor plate track that I think McMurray has elected to run at the front most of the night.
Remember I said about 16, 17?
Yeah.
Disregard that.
Disregard that.
Because here they come again.
Here they come, and I mean, they have come fast. I mean, the 17 worked into a position by himself and just was there, and as soon as he saw the 16 coming, jumps out, makes it 3 wide. And these are the only 2 guys, let's reiterate this, the only 2 guys that have come from back in the pack and made that outside lane work.
And it's kind of the middle lane.
The middle lane.
Now they're really on the outside lane, so they got a lot further to go to get to the front.
And it's going to be interesting to see, can they get this thing all the way to the front this time? Because we've seen them do it before, just when it was 2 lanes wide. But they are having to go a little bit extra around there because the 15 of Boyer and those guys have them hung out there.
Oh, boy. And give a nod to their spotters, who no doubt have had a lot of communication going on to make sure they could hook up once again in the draft, Marty.
Now watch him get a shot right here. Biffle was right on the bumper. Now, he can do this for a while, and then he's going to have to back off because of the temperatures. And we're going to be talking about temperatures a lot more. But he is laying on them right now.
Now they're in position because they've cleared that 15 car. Once they cleared that 15 car, now they're back to 2 wide. And we've seen them be able to do this.
Wow.
You see, that was a little bit close right there. Now he's got to wait on the 16 car and let the 16 car get back to him. But they've created 2 lines now and eliminated that 3rd outside line for them.
Greg Biffle right with him, Marty.
It's kind of ho-hum when you're riding up front, but it's exciting when you're cutting through the field like these 2 guys. They're literally cheering inside their pit box. Biffle just came on the radio. He said, "We're coming back, baby. We're coming back."
This has got to be fun. I mean, you don't want to drop to the back and have to earn it the way they have, but once you rally back to the point, man, it must be satisfying. Marty, Larry, this is so much like what we saw in the 500.
Well, if you remember, it was Greg Biffle. He ended up finishing 3rd in the Daytona 500. He pushed Matt Kenseth to the win. He was scrutinized because he didn't try to win the race. He was just trying to make sure a Roush Fenway driver won the Great American Race in February.
He's got to be careful, though, he's giving Matt a good shot, but he's leaving such a gap in between. You can get burned on that really quick because the 15 or somebody's going to go high on Biffle.
Exactly, but here's what happened right there. That 18 car, this has been about the 3rd time we've seen it. That 18 car sees a pack coming, goes up the racetrack, takes that side draft, and separates those 2 guys. He's done it twice to that 17 and the 16 of Biffle.
You can continue to watch the rally as we thank our sponsors. Tonight's coverage brought to you by Sprint, proud sponsor of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series.
I want to get back to what you're talking about, the 18. You remember the part about being a jerk? No, I'm saying
that's not being a jerk, but he's doing what he's got to do.
No, he's being a jerk, but he's doing what he's got to do. I'm not taking anything away from him.
No,
that's what you have to do at this point in the race on this racetrack.
Yeah, remember when we saw it earlier when he went up the racetrack and we thought, oh, look what he's in. Well, he separated those guys, and we saw him do it just a minute ago. He goes up and separates the 17 and the 16, and he stalled those guys out at 4th and 5th.
We got to step aside. Take a local break. We're back in 90 seconds. Tony Stewart on the point at Daytona with 17 to go. We're getting down to the end in the Coke Zero 400 at Daytona, powered by Coca-Cola. NASCAR on TNT, back at the World Center of Racing, where we are under caution for the 4th time tonight. And the reason why, Brad Keselowski having a problem while running 13th on track.
Take a look. Yeah, he just gets loose right there. And that was, we saw him loose earlier in the race.
Yes.
And it just got worse and worse and worse. But he was really fast on the straightaway. It's like you said, Kyle, that right rear being down. But that's what happened. He just
turns, and when he turns to the left, it just turns out from under him right there. Good job of everybody else kind of avoiding. Look at that thing get up in the air a little bit, where it catches in that right rear quarter panel. Is so messed up. That thing does not have any side force in the rear. As you see that quarter panel, the way that thing's caved in, it's a totally different aero car than what he's driven all week long.
And when it's like that here, it's pretty terrifying.
Pretty terrible. Look how far that bumper's driven in, and how far. Look at that thing just lift up right there.
But how good has that team done tonight, based on
what
the
they've been through.
difficulties they had early.
Yeah, what this team has done, the crash on pit road, that part of it, they've done a great job to get that car back in that position. And look, all he's done right here.
Clear low, clear low, clear low.
You hear spotters talking. All he's done is spun that thing around. He can go down pit road, put 4 more tires on it, and he's back in the hunt in this thing.
Yeah, he did stay on the lead lap, and that's all you need to be, on the lead lap.
And he needs 4 tires.
Yeah,
that car will handle for a little while on 4 tires. They only got 14 laps to go, so yeah, he still get a good finish out of this.
Yeah, and for everybody watching at home, here's what you need to do. Call your family, call your friends, call people you don't like, because there's only 15 or 16 laps left in this thing, and I don't care about the rest of the race. This is what it's going to come down to, and it's going to be an exciting last 10 or 15 laps.
Now is the time. Learn more about the Toyota Tundra, the truck that's changing it all, at toyota.com/Tundra. Down now to 14 laps remaining. It'll be 13 when they come this time by. This our 4th caution of the night. Our 3rd caution came out when we were getting ready to begin a cycle of green flag pit stops just a little bit ago. Jimmy Johnson is going to be the big hit here.
Yeah, these guys some of them are hitting pit lane. Jimmy Johnson got tagged. Some of these guys were like Jeff Gordon and Biffle and Kenseth had no idea what was going on. Now, don't forget, Kenseth drove through. You see the commitment cone there. You see the yellow light on the right. So they've committed. Now, Biffle got a penalty because he went ahead and decided, I'm going to make my pit stop. Where Kenseth knew, light was yellow, I'm going to drive through. And that separated them. Not that it made any difference. They're back together on the racetrack right now.
Saving fuel right here. These guys, you see them cutting off.
What do you see here, Larry?
Well, guys, we started talking about it in the countdown to green. We've talked about it a lot. We've heard drivers talking about it. And it's watching the water temperature, the water pressure, the oil temperature. I have to say, probably shortly after we go back racing, there's no more worrying about gauges. There's no more worried about water spitting out at the base of the right side windshield. We've not seen a lot of pushing, but I think we're going to see a lot of pushing and shoving here in these last 12 laps.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of water pushing out of these cars, too.
So we're going to go back green as we have cleaned up our 4th caution of the night. Restarting on the front row, Tony Stewart, the race leader, Denny Hamlin beside him. In row 2, Kyle Busch and Casey Kane, another driver that's rallied from adversity tonight. Dale Earnhardt Jr. 5th. He's on row 3 with Ryan Newman. And row 4, 2 guys have been getting it done all night long. Roush Fenway teammates Matt Kenseth and Greg Biffle. When the green goes back in the air, we will have 12 laps remaining, barring an overtime session. But that's certainly not out of the question tonight. If you just tuned in, your timing's great, because we're about to decide what happens in the 400-miler at Daytona.
I suspect they're going to go 3 wide pretty quick here.
Tony Stewart, Kyle Busch running 1-2. Not the first time we've seen that in the late stages of a summer race at Daytona.
'18 will he'll make something happen here pretty quick.
Yes, he will.
He's not one for patience.
Biffle and Kenseth still running side by side, 4 rows deep. They're not out of line and working together yet.
And they're just in a place where it's going to be hard for them to get hooked back together here with 10 or 11 laps to go, unless something big happens and the 16th, and you see Matt's moving up. Matt moved up. Matt cleared and moved up in front of the 16th.
And I think Biffle just rolled out the throttle enough to give Matt some room so he could get up there.
Yeah, and that's almost what it was going to have to be. It's going to be interesting to see when they start and jump out there in that outside lane, and
they
go that outside lane.
I was going to say,
gone. They're gone.
They don't have a lot of time left. We got, what, 11 laps to go here.
Yeah.
So you've got to get it done now.
Yeah.
And it's going to take them 5 laps probably to get even with it.
Yeah. Larry said in Countdown to Green, he reiterated it a moment ago, when you get inside of 10 laps to go, don't worry about the gauges. Let's listen to the 18 radio.
All right, but once we go back green, you can bump up your temps to 260 from here on out. I'd save it the most you could, but don't be worried about going to 260 from this point forward.
They told him to shut off all of his fans. Don't worry about that temperature. Just let it all go. He's had a great race car. Kyle Busch is ready to go to the front, see if he can make a move and lock himself into a wild card position.
And I think if Kenseth and Biffle will get past whoever that guy in the middle, and they get down, now they'll make some ground up. But when they were way up on the outside, it's just that. We talked about it, that's a long way around this racetrack. It's hard to make up that ground.
Yeah, and they wasted almost a whole lap right there. Now this is 10 to go, but they wasted almost a whole lap right there.
9 laps to go this time around.
Keep an eye on the 18. If they get to the 18, I'm really curious to see if he starts going up the racetrack again and trying to do that side draft deal, try to separate them.
And just basically break their momentum.
Yeah, and like I said, that's what you got to do. I mean, you know, you're out here to win this race, so whatever advantage you have, take it.
If you're going to be successful at a plate race, you got to multitask.
Look at that.
Here they come again. That is big-time power.
That's
Kenseth
huge.
on the outside, getting a push from Biffle. They're trying to go back to the race lead as they come off the corner.
And you saw Tony try to ease up there and get up next to that 16 and break that side draft a little bit, but it's almost like he waited too long to make that move to get up there.
Yeah, and if they clear Tony, it's going to be over.
That was a good move by Tony.
Oh, wow, who was that?
Denny Hamlin out of shape. Here's the big one. A number of drivers involved as they come down toward turn 1.
Hold your brake.
Oh, wow, that was a ton.
This is big.
Man, was that Ambrose? Somebody hit a ton up there.
That was big. Biffle got hit a little bit and got sent back across the racetrack into the 11 car, I think is what we'll see.
Trevor Bayne, one of the drivers involved.
And the second wreck of the night for him.
Window net going
Got
down.
caught in 2 of them.
That's a sign to safety workers that he is okay.
Wow.
Get out your pencil, because there's going to be a long list of competitors that had their night come to an end on this one. Joey Logano, Clint Bowyer, among those involved. And there's the Bowyer car.
We said earlier, when this thing gets down to this stage, it's all take and no give, and that's what happens when you get to that place. Everybody's just trying to did not realize that the 18 car was in it. What a great night that Kyle Busch has had until this point.
And he was the wild card leader coming into this race, was Kyle Busch.
Watch the 16, yeah.
Yes.
And Hamlin just gets a big run. Got tapped. Did he get tapped by the 5?
It was close.
It's hard to say from that angle. It almost looks like he gets the 9. Look at the 9 car go back up the racetrack. Oh.
Yeah, David Gilliland, Dave Blaney, Martin Truex Jr. Saw Hamlin was involved. The damage for Kyle Busch, Juan Pablo Montoya.
And that's one thing, too, when these cars don't change direction very good. I think he went to turn to the left. It almost looked like Biffle maybe went down a little bit, but regardless, when you turn these cars as hard like that to avoid something, it's hard to keep them straight.
Yeah, it almost looked like I couldn't tell where the 5 car was, but it's like Denny came down across the hood, and the 11 and the 18 really looked like they got together more so than the 5 car involved. That 9 car took a tough hit, and all these guys had no place to go because they're going. Some cars are going up the racetrack wreck, and some cars are coming down. Look at Denny right there. He changes lanes, and he just barely clips the 18 and gets knocked into the 16. It almost looks like it's almost like a pinball kind of thing.
Trevor Bayne took a pretty good shot, too.
Yes,
he actually took 2 of them.
Casey Mears is another name that was involved that I don't think we've mentioned yet.
You know, it almost looked like the 11 had such a run on the 16. He came up on him so fast, he went to turn left, and when he turned left, that's when he lost control of it.
Yeah,
watch what kind
right
of run he
here.
has.
What's the 11? You don't see the 5 car, so the 11, see, they hook right there.
Yeah.
That was a great angle.
Yeah, that was the angle that told the story.
Casey had nothing to do with that. It says 11 changed lanes, the 18 was there, and they just barely hooked.
Right here, see you sliding.
And Denny had a run.
Denny had a run. He was coming.
Paul Menard also with big-time damage. You see him there. The other RCR drivers, Kevin Harvick and Jeff Burton, got through unscathed. Real Coke taste and 0 calories, plus today's wide-open race coverage. Coke Zero is your ticket to enjoy everything about race day. Coke Zero is giving fans at home a chance to enjoy everything on every lap in tonight's race that ends in 0. For your chance to win on a Coke Zero lap, text TASTE to 26739 or visit CokeZeroLap.com. 24 cars involved in accidents here tonight, 5 different cautions, 14 machines involved in this, our most recent accident. Talked about the hard hit for Trevor Bayne. Let's go on board with the 21.
And watch the headrest do its job.
Outside of 3. Outside of 3. Easy, 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 easy. Come on down. Come on down.
Going to take another one here. Those headrests are so great.
Hold the brake.
I mean, they really are.
Kind of been working our way up all night long. A couple of cars involved early in a caution, then we had 6 or 7, and now 14. It always
builds.
Seems to happen this way, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're getting to the end of the race, you get greedy. And when you know, it's almost like you got 10 laps to go. You're not thinking about what am I going to do 20 laps now. You've got to get everything you can get every single lap of this race right now, or what's left of the race. And there's not enough room sometimes, but it's typical.
And so much of being successful is about anticipation, not just knowing what you're going to do, but trying to figure out what all the guys around you are thinking as well.
Well, again, you have to. There's nothing you really can't think about it down the road. You're reacting to everything that's going on around you, and we talked about it earlier. You're just hoping that one guy doesn't make that mistake. That's going to take out you and a lot of other guys. That's what happened right there.
Matt Kenseth leads this race. Tony Stewart, who started 42nd, is running in the 2nd position. Kenseth started on the pole this evening. Greg Biffle is 3rd. Casey Kane, who's had some issues tonight, finds himself in the 4th position. And Jeff Burton is 5th. His teammate Kevin Harvick is 7th. They've played a little bit of a different strategy tonight. As soon as the green flag went in the air, they dropped to the back. A little bit of a different pit cycle for those RCR cars, but they avoid the big one, and now here they are in position as we go 5 laps remaining. So we go down the stretch at Daytona, and the question becomes, do you want to lead this race, or do you want to be the man coming from behind to make it happen? Here's a survey of some of the drivers in the garage.
On the white flag, you want to be second. I think the slingshot's going to work where you can pull out and pass coming to the line.
I think you want to be in second, and you want to be able to get that run.
It depends on the scenario. You know, if you're in a tandem, obviously you want to be second. If you're in a tandem with a pack, you know, a couple groups of cars, then you want to be leading. So circumstances.
When I won in 2008, I was second, maybe third, I think, coming off of turn 2. But sometimes it's good to be up front. Sometimes it's good to be second, third, or fourth. It all depends.
That's great if you're going to come back and get the checkered flag.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you take the white flag and you're in the lead and the wreck happens, you just won the race.
Yeah. You know, it's going to get interesting here. You've got Kenseth, a Roush driver, in first. Biffle, a Roush driver, in third. Okay, let's stick Tony over here to the side as a Stewart-Haas driver. Then we got Kasey Kahne in fourth, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in sixth. So here's team drivers. Now we got Burton in fifth and Harvick in seventh. They're team drivers. So out of the first 7 cars, we've got 3 groups of teammates. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pair up because they're all behind each other. You know what I mean? It's the way it's staggered. Tony being in there staggers things.
Yeah, kind of, because he's kind of in the Hendrick umbrella.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you that.
You've got
but, you know, right now I want to be Kenseth or Biffle.
Oh, well, those guys
just after watching this race
yeah,
so far.
yeah.
But if anybody can be the spoiler in this thing, it's Tony. I think Tony's one of the smartest restrictor plate drivers, and you've got Kasey right there with him. And Casey's ready, and who can doubt what Earnhardt can do? I mean, we've seen this guy come from 10th or 11th to finish second or to win races seemingly from nowhere. So he did a tremendous job driving through that wreck down there a minute ago, just avoiding that. So it's going to be interesting with these guys.
And you saw the results of our Twitter poll. Do you want to be leading or not? 51% said in the lead. 49% said they would rather rally from behind.
Let me quandary this. Was it during the truck race or the nationwide race that the 13th place car won the race?
That was the nationwide race in February.
Okay, who's 13th right now? Quapple. I'm taking Travis right now. I mean, you don't know at this point in time.
Ralph?
Well, Daytona's been a tough place for Juan Pablo Montoya this year. Tell me about that incident. What happened?
The target shape was pretty good. I felt the first had a lot of motor, so I had 2 guys had the 21 and 9 pushing me, so we're making pretty good ground there. And to tell you the truth, what happened, I don't know. Somebody wrecked in front of us. I lifted, I got spun into the fence, and then I got hit everywhere. You know what I mean? It's Daytona.
Good to see that Juan's okay, Ralph. Been an eventful year at Daytona for him. We all remember the jet dryer incident in the 500. 1982, Bobby Allison won both the Daytona 500 and the Summer Classic here at Daytona. Matt Kenseth trying to do it tonight. Heard from Juan Pablo Montoya. David Gilliland has also been released from the infield care center. When they take the green flag, there will be 2 laps to go. This will not be one of NASCAR's 3 attempts at a green-white checker because we are still within regulation. And once we get the white flag, the next flag ends it, whether it be the caution or the checker. And again, we remind you about our poll question tonight on Twitter. On the final lap, do you want to be leading or not? The fans have spoken tonight on Twitter. 51% say they want to be the leader. 49% say they want to be the leader. 51% say they do not. Matt Kenseth on the inside lane. He's led 88 laps tonight. And Greg Biffle right behind him. 4 last lap passes for the win in the last 11 races here at Daytona. We'll see if we get one. Tony Stewart, no stranger to success at this track. He's won 3 of the last 7 summer races. Pace car is off. We're going green, and we're going to settle it at the World Center of Racing. Kasey Kahne giving a nice push to Tony Stewart in that outside lane.
This is Hendrick against Roush right here.
Yes, it is.
Ford and Chevy.
Got the RCR guys behind him. That's Burton and Harvick hooked up right behind the Roush guys on the inside lane.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they drop to the outside and make it 3 wide.
Yeah, and 2 to go. Nobody's looking at a single gauge in these cars.
No.
Man, nice run down the back straightaway on the inside for those Roush guys.
And that yellow helped a lot.
Yes.
With the 3 laps to go. They got the temperatures down.
So here's your tandem racing for everybody at home right now. This is what it was last year.
Coming down through the tri-oval. Once we get the white flag, the next flag will end it, whether it's the caution or the checker. And side by side with a lap to go at Daytona.
And these guys are going to run. They're going to be leaning on each other going down the backstretch.
Oh, my God.
We got somebody sideways. Wow, Burton did an unbelievable job saving that race car.
Amazing save by Jeff Burton.
Now we got the 14 out there all by himself, but he got a big push to get away from those guys.
Tony Stewart pulling down in front of Matt Kenseth. And Kane with a little charge in the outside lane.
That's the break that Tony needed right there.
This is going to be... This
they're stacking up. They're stacking up.
Through turns 3 and 4
here we go.
For the final time. Big crash behind the race leader, Tony Stewart. That's going to allow Smoke to pull away. What's going to happen behind him? Can Burton get there? No, he can't. Tony Stewart wins it at Daytona.
We'll take that.
Great finish.
From 42nd to the win.
Great move by Jeff Burton right there. I tell you,
that
Jeff,
was a
great race by
save.
Jeff Burton, I'm telling you. Incredible save, an incredible job to put him in position. And, you know, Matt's just where he's got to be. But Kasey Kahne deserves a lot of credit for that, too. Pushing that 14 and getting him in the right position.
Did you see the water spitting out of that thing, man? I mean, he sacrificed his engine right there.
We told you in Countdown to Green, it's all going to come down to the final lap, and it did not disappoint once again.
Way to drive that thing. I might figure it out one day.
That's incredible.
Dale Earnhardt won 34 races here. That's more than anybody when you go across all the series. Second on that list at this track, Tony Stewart. Tonight, he collects his 18th checkered flag. And it's his 4th in this race in the last 8 years. And oh, by the way, now he's got 3 wins, joining Brad Keselowski. How huge will that be when we head to the playoffs in September? Did get a report that Marcus Ambrose, involved in that earlier accident, hard hit, has walked from the infield care center. And it appears that everyone that was involved in this accident coming to the checker has been able to walk away. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s window net is down. There you see him walking across the infield.
Yeah, these guys won't even probably ride in an ambulance. That's what you got to do once you wreck if you can't drive your car back.
Everybody got their money's worth tonight.
Now watch the 14 car. Gets a huge shot here.
Watch this 17 go in the corner. He takes 2 handfuls. This thing goes down. You see him right there.
He's got the 16 is leaning on him.
Leaning on him, just leaning. And when they separate, that 14 car had just enough go to get around him, clear him, and pull over in front of him and block.
And like you said, the 5 car gave him such a shove in 1 and 2 right there.
And look at the 5 car coming. Yeah. Because the 17 and 16 had to hook back up again. And then as we get down in here, these guys are right on him. 17 wants to go up. He goes up. The 16's right there. He just... It looked like Matt comes down and gets into the 16 and knocks him down.
How many times have you seen it at Daytona? Someone's coming to the checker flag, and they're everywhere, scattering in the tri-oval behind them.
I tell you, Harvick he did a good job, too, because Earnhardt was in the back of Harvick, actually turned Harvick down on the apron, and just about had it saved. Yes.
Earnhardt took a hard lick to the outside wall. He got turned to the outside. You see him right in the middle of the race.
So did
back
Harvick.
Into the outside again.
Yeah, Harvick took a shot, too. See the 29 go down?
Yes.
And then the 16 gets hit by the 17 and gets into Harvick.
Wow. It just
closes
up.
Was that Newman on the bottom? No, that was
Eric Almirola.
He's just driving along, thought he had it missed.
Jamie McMurray, Kyle Busch, some of the other drivers involved. Travis Kvapil, there's Jeff Gordon driving through the grass. Tony Stewart will be glad to hear that everyone's okay after he celebrates in victory lane here this evening. Talked to him on Countdown to Green, asked him about the situation in qualifying after qualifying second, but his time was disallowed. Had to start in the 42nd position. Said our team made a mistake. NASCAR did what they had to do. I think we're just fine. And I agree. He played his cards right. And Tony Stewart is a winner for the 47th time in his career. Coming back to Daytona in a moment. The Coke Zero 400 on TNT is brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero. Real Coke taste and 0 calories. NASCAR on TNT, back at Daytona International Speedway. It's all wrapped up in the Coke Zero 400, powered by Coca-Cola. And I know it's cliched with the fireworks going off in the sky. The fireworks were on track, and now they're in victory lane to Matt Yoakum.
Back in the season opening Budweiser shootout. Tony Stewart lost a heartbreaker at the finish to Kyle Busch. Smoke, always special to win at Daytona, but walk me through that final lap when everything got jumbled.
I don't even remember what happened that last lap. We just in that second lane and just tried to get the 17 and 16 pulled apart, and once we got them pulled apart, it gave us a run on the outside. So it shows what Mobil 1 lubricants and oils can do for you. It's just so good on restarts, and just a weird day. These races, I'm still voting for a figure 8 race here.
42nd to first, not one, not twice, not 3 times, but this is your 4th Midsummer Classic, the Coke Zero 400 win. What's this one mean to you?
Well, anytime you win at Daytona, it's special, but the Chevy was awesome, had great Hendrick horsepower, and everybody at Stewart-Haas Racing did an awesome job this weekend. I'm really, really proud of our organization. We, if it weren't for the cap blowing off the Nakaduck, we would have been second, third qualifying, and I'm really, really proud of that. So really proud of this Mobil 1 Office Depot team and everybody at Coca-Cola and U.S. Army, Quicken Loans, GoDaddy, Aspen Dental, Outback Steakhouse, everybody that's a part of this program. They just, Gene Haas and everybody at Haas Automation are the ones that got this started. So thanks to all those people.
So Rick Hendrick, one of your corporate partners, poked his head in the window. What did he tell you?
Can never tell that. So he just said good job. So thanks to all of our fans. It's it's been a long, hot 4th of July. We know that, and appreciate all the fans that stuck it out tonight. It's been a long, hot couple of days for them, and we got the toughest fans in the world.
I think the only thing difficult for Tony Stewart, the confetti in victory lane. Marty?
Well, I guess it's a good thing when you're disappointed to finish 3rd. Matt Kenseth, clearly the best car tonight. Was it just that the top line would not move enough to get you guys up to where Tony and those guys were?
It's just disappointing. Whenever you have the best car, me and Greg, I thought did, and you didn't win. But I don't know. It seems like we made the wrong moves at Talladega by not keeping Greg with me good enough and getting separated. And today, I think I shouldn't have worried about it. Once we got separated off of 2 and I was under Tony, I think I should have just stayed with him and tried to race him to the finish. But anyway, I tried to slow up and grab my teammate that's been helping me so much all night. And we started getting hooked together, and Tony was going slow, and I went to go outside of Tony, and then everybody wrecked behind me. I'm not sure what happened.
You told me when you got out of the car that you need to figure this out. Is it something you're beating yourself up over, or what?
Well, I don't know. It's just a different kind of racing. You can always second guess your moves all night long, but I thought we did good to get back to the front after the unfortunate caution, and I thought we were in perfect position. I thought it kept Greg with me perfectly for a lap and a quarter there, and then that last lap it gets crazy. Everybody gets shoving, and you don't really know what's going on 2 or 3 rows behind you. So did the best I could. Just disappointed we came up short because these guys gave me an awesome car.
Clearly a dominant car for Matt Kenseth. He finishes 3rd tonight.
Marty, he led 89 laps of the 160 here this evening. We just got word Kevin Harvick, after that hard hit, has been released from the Care Center as we look at championship standings with 18 races complete. Matt Kenseth, 136 points in front of the 10th position. That is big. He's going to be in the chase. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Greg Biffle, sizable advantages as well. Jimmie Johnson. And how about Tony Stewart with 3 wins He's now jumped to 5th in points, and you can't say enough about Brad Keselowski. Finished 6th tonight. He's up a position to 9th in the standings. And this is where things get interesting. Kyle Busch, number 1 in the wild card, and Joey Logano by 1 point in front of Ryan Newman as the 2nd wild card position. Kasey Kahne 6 points behind. He's 16th after 18 races. Now to Ralph Sheheen.
Well, we got Dale Earnhardt Jr. We're going to do this one live, too, by the way. Hey, tell me about what happened to you in that big incident.
We were going into 3 and looked like I couldn't tell what was in front of Harvick, but looked like everybody was coming apart, and we come up on him real fast, and Harvick went to the inside of the 16, and the 16 either came down or got shoved down into the nose of Harvick's car, and I don't know, you see it right there, but I was getting shoved at the same time. I was lifting off of Harvick and getting shoved into him, and just turning left and got clipped by the 16 going by. It was pretty wild. You know, we're all running into each other. It was crazy at the end.
Marty?
Well, Ralph, somehow these two guys made it through. Ryan Newman over here, Jeff Burton here. I'm going to start with you because I got to have you piece together your night for me. The mirror falls off on like lap 5. Lap 1, you're at 240 on the water. How did you hold it together tonight for a second-place finish?
Well, honestly, we had to just kind of ride around in the back tonight. Right now, if we get in the pack and race, we're going to overheat and we're not going to finish the race. So unfortunately, we kind of have to ride around, and that kept us out of some trouble, though, you know, and you know, we got going with about 30 to go and missed a couple wrecks. Had some fortune. Kevin and I had a good run going and just had nowhere to go. And you know, did my little thing in turn 1, saved it, and then they wrecked off turn 4 and ended up with a good finish. So anytime you can leave here with a car not tore up, you probably ought to be happy.
You never knew going 3 wide in turns 3 and 4 would be so brilliant, did you?
Not by yourself.
Good move.
I was by myself. I didn't know that was a good thing to do, but they had all got to slow down enough where I didn't have a lot of choice. I had to go somewhere.
All right, man. Congratulations. Nice run for you. How did you squirt through that whole thing, Newman?
He led the way.
You followed him, huh?
Well, involuntarily, but I was on the high side and tried to go around him when he got loose in 2, and he had a heck of a save. And just a good run for our Aspen Dental Chevrolet. First race for them on a car. Really proud to have them as part of Stewart-Haas and myself. And a top 5 is what our team needed, man. I think we were about 15th or 16th going into turn 3 and then come off of turn 4 and be 5th at the start-finish line. And congratulations to Tony and those guys. They did an awesome job.
I was going to ask you, momentum-wise, how critical was this for the 39 team?
Well, it was big for us, especially with the stretch coming up with Loudon, which is a place that, you know, us at Stewart-Haas have done an awesome job at in the past. We look forward to going to there. But the stretch going into Indy and then obviously the chase, that's important. Well, we might have lost a playoff berth tonight, but we're still in plenty of contention there with the 20 car right now.
Walk me through what happened on pit road with the 24 and all that went on earlier in the race.
Basically, over the way I saw the 24 just didn't leave us any room. I watched him in the mirror coming off. He was way behind us, and he just never made it to the outside lane. And when I came off on the outside of the 5 turned out, and he had to go around whoever it was, and we just all 3 went together. We came together, and I got the rough end of the deal, it looked like, because I spun around and hit the 2 car, but luckily we didn't hit anybody. All the guys stayed safe, and that was important. That's the last thing I want to see is anybody get hit on pit road, but I don't mind bumping into guys on a racetrack, but hitting anybody on pit road is not cool.
I can't imagine how scary that is as a driver to be going backwards towards a car with guys around it.
That's one part of it. The other part is I know a lot of those guys that came from there, and a lot of those guys have been good friends to me, so that's something I didn't want to see, but fortunately everybody was safe, and we'll go on. I mean, it was a racing accident on pit road. Fortunately, we're running 45 instead of 155.
Congratulations on a great run. Ralph?
Here with Denny Hamlin. Denny, you seem to be moving a little bit slow. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. None of the hits were too bad except for the last one in the right side door, but proud of our FedEx office team. You know, it was one of those weekends where it's tough to, going into the race with not much practice and things like that, but we put ourselves in a position to win, and just like there at the end, we were all jockeying for position. Air gets taken off cars, and it looked like the 16. I think he came down and got the right front fender, and I was already loose anyway. So after that, it's just you're just a ping pong ball up to that point. But got to thank my whole team for sticking by us this weekend, and we'll go to Loudon and try to win that one.
You came into this race with back issues. Did you aggravate that in any of those incidents tonight, or are you now dealing with pain in other areas?
Well,
I was fine. I could have done without it, that's for sure. But you know, I'll be 100% by next weekend for sure. You know, as much strides as I take really every day in getting better. That I know once I get to Loudon next weekend, we'll be good to go. So just looking forward to getting to some of these racetracks where you can kind of control your own destiny.
Well, Kasey Kahne involved in that last lap accident there. Casey, you gave Tony Stewart a huge push for the win. I think he owes you a beer.
Yeah, that was. I was trying all I could. Another Hendrick engine, and as good as our Chevys were all night, I wanted to see Tony win over those other two. But you know, when Burton hit me in turns 1, I don't know where he came from or how that happened. I know the inside kind of got lined up, so me and Tony started falling back a little. Then he bounced off, I think, Biffle and myself, and just slowed the whole field down. And by the time we got to turn 4, everybody had caught back up, and it was way too many cars in too small of an area.
You got damage on the right front in pit lane. You were fighting with an overheating car all night. You guys really charged back.
Yeah, we did. I don't know about pit lane. I gave Ryan room, and then I guess there was a car outside of him, so Ryan turned to the left or something, but I haven't seen it. But yeah, we ended up spinning there, just a racing thing on pit road, and then you know, from there we had to fight. We had to put water in once, but the temperatures were great after that. Our HendrickCars.com Chevy ran great. Thanks to Farmers Insurance, Quaker State, and everybody that supports us.
Tony Stewart at the top of the scoreboard has won for the 3rd time in 2012 as the fireworks continue to go off here at Daytona. Amazing day for Team Penske. At 6 o'clock this afternoon here at the track, the announcement came from Steve O'Donnell that A.J. Allmendinger, driver of the 22, been suspended indefinitely by NASCAR for violating the sport's substance abuse policy. We thought Kenny Wallace might get in the car, but we knew all along the plan, fly in Sam Hornish Jr. from Charlotte. Sam made it, landed here at 7:25, went racing at 7:50. Not a great night on track. He finished 33rd. Here's Marty Snyder with Sam.
So what you're saying is Sam didn't have much to do, Adam today? He was just hanging out? Is that what you're saying, Adam?
Just another boring day.
It's another boring day for Sam. What'd you do today? I don't know.
Can't hear anymore.
No, exactly. Man, how did you manage everything? Let's start at the beginning. Phone call comes from who, what time, and where were you?
I got a call from Mike Nelson about, 30 seconds before I was getting ready to do my second segment on the Speed Center show. And I'm like, I can't take it right now because it's a live show, and got done with that, and they wanted to do something for tomorrow. Can you spend a couple minutes? I was like, yeah, but I got to call back. You know, I call back. I'm sorry, can't do anything. So headed off towards the airport, and after that, for about the next, 2.5 hours, it was pretty quiet for me because I was just sitting there waiting for the airplane to get there, and then also flying here. But done a lot of things that I've never done before. Put a suit on in an airplane. Glad I was able to come down here and help out. It's been a long time since I got to drive the Shell Pennzoil car. That was all the way back in 2003 in the IndyCar Series. So obviously wish that we could have gave him a better finish today. I was pretty comfortable in the car and really happy how it was running, just trying to make it to the end, and ended up puncturing a tire, and it came apart on us while we were trying to get to pit road. So, up and down day for sure, but got to spend the morning in the lake with my little girls, and then I got to come down to Daytona and race tonight.
That's a good thing when you get to spend the first part of the day at the lake. Did you ever get comfortable in the car?
Yeah, I was pretty comfortable. I spent about the first 15 laps just sitting there riding around, making sure that I was comfortable with how the car was. There was a couple things that, if we would have had, another 15 minutes that we probably would have worked on a little bit. But all in all, the car was a little bit tighter than what I wanted from the start, and I feel like we just were going to make some small changes along to that point. And the last half of the race was just for us, riding around there, unfortunately. But I was just I felt like the car was really good, and that once it handled well, it moved in and out of traffic. I don't know what the highest we got to was, but I felt like we could move forward when we wanted to. But for even the points where the car was good, we just wanted to ride towards the back of the pack, that first pack, make sure that we had a car to race at the end, and unfortunately we didn't get the opportunity to do that.
You should pack some more into your schedule, I hope you have a ride home. I haven't even thought about that. Adam, can you give him a ride home?
I'll send him with you, Marty. How about that?
Sounds great.
And now some questions to ponder in the 22 camp. Who drives that car next week at New Hampshire? And with a free agency situation, who might be in it down the road? Tony Stewart spraying the champagne. He deserves it. Here are our unofficial results, and they're in all capital letters for a reason. Jeff Burton, Matt Kenseth, Logano, Newman, the top 5.
some of these guys would even talk about.
Michael
Waltrip had a great.
Bobby Labonte.
And Bobby, those guys got lapped. Remember, they were one of the first teams to get lapped.
Yeah. Casey Kane, Jeff Gordon, both involved in multiple accidents and unofficially both inside the top 12.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. had a great car and was coming there at the end. You heard him talk about it.
Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, a lot of time at the front.
Ran up front all day, yeah.
Ambrose had that hard hit, and he was 30th. There's Jimmy Johnson, 36th. After starting 12th, his third DNF of the year on 3 plate races. Talked about the situation for Jeff Gordon, finished 12th unofficially, Matt.
And absolutely, and Jeff Gordon fought back to that 12th place finish. And Jeff, the tone of your day, you were sitting perfectly in third. Everyone was starting to make their green flag stops, and then the tone just absolutely changed. What happened?
We were just coming to pit road, you know, and I don't know what happened behind me, but they just started wrecking, and we got caught up in that. So, you know, that definitely changed our day. We were in great position, fast race car. You know, pit stops are flawless, and, you know, at that point it was, try to fix the damage and get track position. And the damage, they did a great job with. The car had plenty of speed, but track position, there was just no passing when you were in the back in those final laps. It was just 3 lanes wide, and you just had to wait till somebody wrecked or you know, got out of shape and the momentum would change. So we actually had a great run coming through 3 and 4 right there, and we were going to be better than I think even 12th, even though they wrecked. We kind of got caught in that wreck too, but we had some momentum coming, so I think we could have finished 10th or 12th, but we ended up 12th. Not a bad day considering all the things that happened.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
And Jeff Gordon, a 6-time winner at Daytona. Tony Stewart celebrating for the 4th time tonight. And for the 2nd consecutive week, a driver gets his 3rd win of the year. Larry?
Yeah, Adam, we can only hope that our stock market will look like Tony Stewart's day, because what you have to remember, when qualifying was over with, he qualified up here in the 2nd position, but because of post-qualifying inspection, he started all the way back here in 42nd. Now, I think because Tony wanted to hang back, you can look all the way up here till we made our first set of green flag pit stops. Tony pretty much stayed just outside the top 25, but then right in here, especially about the time we had that first caution, he started his climb up. Now, he got kicked back just a little bit here, but you can see right here, all the way from about lap 125 on, Tony Stewart never fell out of the top 5, but the big number that changed, remember, he came in here 9th in the points because of the issues at Kentucky. He is now back up to 5th, but more importantly, Adam, with those 3 wins.
Yeah, that is huge when you talk about bonus points. And, of course, Tony won this championship 1 year ago, had no bonus points, won 5 races in the chase, and now you look at the last 10 months or so, he's won 8 times. Joey Logano unofficially inside the top 5 tonight to Matt Yoakum.
2 nights of racing here at Daytona for Joey Logano, 2 top 5 finishes. But how did you make it through that entire melee at the finish?
Rather be lucky than good. We had one up and down night for our Dollar General car, and I tell you what, my guys did a great job to you know, get us through all that, fix my car. We got lucky because we actually didn't get out of pit road in time and was behind the first big crash, and then that put us 11th on the last restart, and then going into 3 was just bumper cars. You know, one guy was hitting the next guy, and then, you know, we got loose, we saved it, and I saw the 16 go through my mirror, and I was like, wow, that was really close. So there's a few moments throughout my Daytona weekend that my heart stopped. So I'm lucky to get through Daytona with 2 top 5 finishes, and Monday at DollarGeneral.com, there's 10% off, so everyone go on there and check that out.
Can you describe when you felt like this team really turned the corner and took a step up in performance?
Yeah, for sure. You know, the beginning of the race, we weren't where we needed to be. We were too loose, and I couldn't get up there and fight and race guys real hard. And we were getting the car close, and we got in that first wreck. But all together, my team has done a really good job the last few weeks on giving me fast race cars. And Kentucky, we had a top 10 car. We just didn't get the finish we deserved. And tonight, we made up for that, basically, and you know, got luckier than probably where we should have finished. So I'll take it for sure. And you know, I think it puts us in the wild card spot right now. So that's exciting to be in the having a shot for that right now. And you know, we still got a few weeks to go, so we got to keep this going and stay strong.
A shot indeed. Joey Logano going on to New Hampshire, a place where he scored his first Sprint Cup victory.
Well, Carl Edwards coming home 7th tonight, but involved in that last lap accident. Crazy wreck there, but you still got a top 10.
An accident. That's a nice word for what went on there. It was insane. And
at the end, I mean, this subway car was right against the fence, and it felt like people were just piling into the car. And I thought if I can just keep it against the fence and keep going straight, we'll be okay. And we keep moving up the pylon. They're showing us 6th now. So overall, a good night for Ford in general. I'm glad to have Subway on this Ford, and I wish we'd have got a win for him. But hopefully we'll go get a win next week with our Fastenal Fusion. We got to march in these points, and Clint and Brad, we picked up a couple points on them. So hopefully that'll be that'll be a start to our chase run.
And Carl Edwards certainly didn't do anything to hurt himself tonight. A top 10 finish as we head to New Hampshire next week. Congratulations to Matthew S. You are an at-track winner and the Lap 0 promotion. NASCAR on TNT, back live at the Daytona International Speedway. Our post-race coverage continues of tonight's Coke Zero 400, powered by Coca-Cola. And this evening, our aerial coverage provided by Goodyear, proudly supporting our military for 100 years. Show your support for our troops at Goodyear.com. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR. Tony Stewart got it done tonight. It's the 47th win of his career and his 3rd in 2012. He joins Brad Keselowski in that category. The Great Escape is all new. Tomorrow, 10/9 Central. Now get a closer look at this adventure series from TNT. It's all for the Coke Zero 400 in Daytona in 2012. Tony Stewart is the winner. Let's look back at how it unfolded on a gorgeous evening in Central Florida. Caution free in the first 80 laps. Sam Hornish Jr. landing. He's in for A.J. Allmendinger. His suspension announced prior to the green flag. And it was dominated early this race by the Roush Fenway organization. Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth had it going on.
Yeah, those guys were definitely strong all night.
Told you about the first caution that came out at lap 80 for the aforementioned Sam Hornish Jr. Cut a tire and spun out. And when drivers came down pit road, we had more problems. As you see the damage for Sam Hornish Jr. Ryan Newman here, clipped by Jeff Gordon, gets Kasey Kahne in a scary moment as he hits Brad Keselowski, who's parked on pit road. On now to lap 90. Another caution. Kurt Busch trying to get aggressive into Trevor Bayne. Both Busch and Bayne finished deep in the field tonight. Great save by Denny Hamlin and Juan Pablo Montoya, who went down on the apron, and Bobby Labonte, the 2000 champion, also trying to stay out of harm's way. Lap 125, Jimmy Johnson trying to get to pit road, make a pit stop. Gets tapped from behind hard into the inside wall. Another DNF for him on a restrictor plate track. See Greg Biffle coming to pit road. But pit road is closed. He was penalized because he was not yet by that commitment cone. That meant he had to start when we went back green deep in the field. You see, Kenseth goes on through, avoiding penalty. Greg Biffle did not. They argued the point. NASCAR won that argument.
They usually do. Yep.
Lap 145, though, Biffle back with his drafting partner, Matt Kenseth. That's when Brad Keselowski gets turned around again, going down the back straightaway. unofficially, he came back and finished inside the top 10. Late in the race, it got wild. Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch among the drivers in this one. In all, 24 drivers tonight were involved in accidents when the smoke cleared on this event. Had a shootout at the end. Tony Stewart trying to battle the Roush Fenway guys. What a great run on the outside to grab the race lead. As they came to the checkers, a huge wreck in the tri-oval. But it was Tony Stewart that was out in front of the mess. And for the 4th time in his career, he has won the Summer Classic here at Daytona. And as we have told you a couple of times, it's his 3rd win of the year. He and Brad Keselowski have got the hat trick in 2012. We look at the top 10 in standings. Bowyer has now dropped to 10.
Yeah, but Bowyer still has that one win, and that's a big deal, you know. And he's not that big a deal, you know. He is in 11th, 12th, 13th. Those guys are catching up. Obviously, we don't see them right there, but they're catching up a little bit and closing that gap. And they've changed positions. If you look at Logano, just as Logano says, you know, he's moved up to 4th. He's moved into the wild card position. Joey Logano and Kyle Busch. Carl Edwards still searching for that win. Did a lot of good for himself tonight by having that top 5, top 6 finish.
How about Joey Logano? 1 point in front of Ryan Newman for the 2nd wild card position, and Casey Kane only a couple behind going to New Hampshire. Our wide open coverage, a lot of fun. We couldn't do it without our sponsors. We thank them now. Sprint, Toyota, hashtag NASCAR on Twitter.com, Viagra, Geico, Goodyear, Ram Trucks, and of course, Coke Zero. Next Sunday, NASCAR on TNT wraps up the Summer Series in New Hampshire. Our coverage begins with Countdown to Green at noon Eastern. Next on TNT, Crazy Heart on the East Coast or the West Coast, The Firm. NASCAR.com has more post-race coverage. Special thanks to our entire production staff,
including Barb,
Dennis Stones,
and
Bill
Angela,
Brittinger,
too,
Dean Koenig,
and Barb,
Daryl Harmon, Eddie Collins, John Howard, Tom Sahar, and Chris Brown. Thanks so much. I'm Adam Alexander. Good night from Daytona.